Live from the Infowars.com studios, it's Alex Jones.
Well, it happened to the media's horror. And they're already in overdrive spinning that it's Trump dissing women and dissing other world leaders to worship Putin. They've now shaken hands. And yesterday, of course, the Polish First Lady, Melania, reached out her hand. Trump was also reaching out. That's something that happens routinely in diplomatic events. She shook the lady's hand first. They said it was a major diss because she was already walking right past. And then the media edits it there to not show you how right after she shakes Melania's hand, she shakes Trump's hand. Now, again, this seems stupid to cover. But the reason it's important is it shows how deceptive MSM is, and it's a window into how they're operating and what they think of you, and how they're targeting you and I and everybody else on this planet. It's peer pressure. Melania's getting off the plane in Tel Aviv. Trump's 10 feet ahead of her. He starts reaching his hand back, looking for her hand. She's focused ahead on the people who she's going to shake their hands. She's a model. She has better etiquette than he does. Better etiquette than anybody I've seen in a long time, quite frankly. Amazing etiquette. She doesn't get his hand. They say, oh, they're fighting. She hates him. No, she's walking down the runway. She's focused. So when he shakes Putin's hand, he's a Russian agent. When the Polish president's wife, he's already about to shake hands with Melania, Trump tries to be gracious and puts his hand out because he's ahead of Melania. Same things happens, and the media runs it like it's the #1 story in the world that the Polish president's wife, the first lady of Poland, dissed him. She came out and said, that's fake news. Melania's hand was out first. I was already going past the president. But again, that's how they take the petty and ignore him saying, good job, Poland, not letting an Islamic invasion happen. You've had no terrorist attacks. Great job, Poland, working with the West. Great job, Poland, becoming so productive and getting your economy going. We want to work with you. Instead of the millions of people on the streets supporting Trump, they turn it into the Poles didn't even want to see Trump. The Polish people don't like Trump. In fact, the Polish first lady wouldn't even shake his hand. That's what Hollywood does. That's the mindset they push, that you're not in the cool crowd if you're not for Hillary. There's nothing more uncool than the Republican leadership, the Democratic leadership, people like Nancy Pelosi. They are a joke. And the truth is, whether it's India or Israel or Russia or Poland and many other countries, Trump is a rock star because they know he's a maverick. They know he's a rebel. They know he's a nationalist. They know he's pro-Christian. They know he's pro-wealth. He's pro-progress. He's pro-success, not globalist combines and crony capitalism and oligopolies and monopolies. But they're so delusional at CNN, they've plummeted to a 1-star rating at the Apple Store. We have a 4.5 at the Apple Store out of 5. And they have the lowest ratings, not just in cable TV, but they got beaten by reruns, decades-old reruns, of Yogi Bear cartoon. Yes, from the 1970s. You heard me right. Arrogant Don Lemon. Arrogant Anderson Cooper. Arrogant. But that's all they've got left is their arrogance. Let's go out to break with the president, talking about meeting with Trump. It's an honor to be with you. Here it is.
Various things, and I think it's going very well. We've had some very, very good talks. We're going to have a talk now, and obviously that will continue. But we look forward to a lot of very positive things happening for Russia, for the United States, and for everybody concerned. And it's an honor to be with you. I'm delighted to be able to meet.
We're going to come back with more of this, but what happened is Trump's strong statements gave them cover now to make a deal. Ladies and gentlemen, we're live, kicking off this Global Friday worldwide transmission. I am your host, Alex Jones. The news websites are Infowars.com and, of course, backup site PrisonPlanet.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Real Alex Jones and all our other great reporters and crew like Paul Joseph Watson, the good old PJW. I've really got to take my time today to go over what's happening, because we've got really serious news with the head U.S. commander in the Pacific saying that the United States is prepared and is preparing to carry out strikes if ordered on North Korea. And China and Russia have green-lighted that they may back those strikes if North Korea continues to threaten to nuke their neighbors and test ICBMs. So that's some huge negative news. And since it's been, almost 60 years since the ceasefire armistice, a fancy term for a ceasefire, there on the demilitarized zone, we tend to get a little complacent and think that it's never going to happen. But as you know in life, things tend to actually happen if they can happen. So very, very serious situation with Kim Jong-un, who is running his own country and now not under the thumb of China, who certainly is villainous, but not megalomaniacal or completely disconnected from reality. They're megalomaniacal in many ways, but not when it comes to destroying their own nest. So we have that situation going on. But we have the economy speeding up in ways, slowing down in others. Global combines trying to kill the economy. We've got USA Today, as I said, reporting severe options for North Korea are on the table. We've got reports on Infowars.com looking at the different options that Trump has. We're going to be breaking that down some today. And then you've got the incredible arrogance of MSM, the entire mainstream media dying combine, who for 20 years have seen their ratings decline to basically nothing. 100,000 viewers per average show. That's local radio shows in big cities have that easily. So it is a legend in its own mind, the mouse that roared. But still, as trolls, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, and others, they can still troll the public with fake news stories, and they can still create racial division. They can still stir up hoaxes. They can still push lies. And they can combine forces and try to prop each other up. Now, something very interesting has happened in the last month. We've seen MSM turn on Megyn Kelly, something MSM doesn't normally do in its news divisions when it came to the interview with yours truly. Her ratings now are 1/3 of what they were when she started out 5 weeks ago. The public is totally turned on her and her attacks on America and the free press. She was sent in on a suicide mission politically. The same things happened at CNN. For the first time, we're seeing the Washington Post, the New York Times, ABC News, all turning on CNN and saying they got clotheslined by bullying the maker of the Trump body slam meme. That where's their journalistic standards that Zucker promised a few months ago to put into place? That was the Washington Post. Now, that's hilarious because the only media worse than CNN is the Washington Post. $600 million the last month in office that Obama gave to the CIA in a section of domestic propaganda that he legalized 4 years ago to engage in disinformation via the Washington Post. It writes the talking points. Media Matters writes talking points to a lesser degree, but they're number two. The Washington Post now writes the hit piece talking points. So to have the Washington Post demonizing and saying CNN's done is just fabulous. The hypocrisy, the arrogance, the just total delusional behavior, believing in their desperateness that if they start throwing each other overboard, that will somehow let them survive. This is final phase meltdown, final phase burning to the ground. Because I'll be honest with you, everybody hailed me as some genius playing Megyn Kelly like a fiddle and that, oh, I did this incredible job. I didn't do that good of a job. And I say this because data is key, and I'm not going to give you false data. You hate them so much that they could have run a rotting possum against her in the ratings, and she would have failed. She's hated, and they're hated so much that nothing they do will ever put them back together again. By extension, challenging her, going into the lion's den, knowing they'd edit it, knowing they'd make me look like a gibbering idiot. It didn't matter because it became a spectacle to focus on the fact that a fight was happening, and I knew it was a fight we'd win because of you. And the arrogant Chuck Todds of the world and the arrogant Chris Comos have not figured it out yet. The arrogant Nancy Pelosi's, the arrogant Maxine Waters, the arrogant Hillary Clintons on just fruitcake level power trips. When you see them out in public and stuff, they say, so self-important, so mentally ill, so fallen that they don't even know how dumb they are when Macron calls the entire French parliament into the palace of the Sun King at Versailles and implements emergency measures not in since the end of World War II, martial law. That's headlines. Emergency powers. He declared emergency powers, martial law. Remember Hollande just did it a few years ago for a few months as a beta test. And then he said, I will now rule as a Jupiterian god of Rome. I am Jupiter. Now, we've got video coming up where he tries to force his way into the front line with Trump to get beside him. Here's Trump just saying, I'm a man. I'm a blue-collar billionaire. I believe in you. The people is the engine of freedom, the engine of innovation. I want to be with you. I want to empower you. You empower me. We're just people working together for a better future. And there's the little Jupiterian god trying to run down and get in the front row. That's coming up. It's on Infowars.com, trying to run up and get in the front row. Oh, yeah, you're not acting like a god. You're acting like some little puppet who wants to get by the real man, not a god, but a man of courage, a man of vision, a man of destiny, a man who believes in humanity and ingenuity and innovation. You have to come scrabbling down a puppet made by others, literally created by Goldman Sachs and the Rothschilds, literally works for them, created as some teenage sex bot who was admittedly a sex toy of the elite as a child, as a 14-year-old. That's what we know about. They're just getting us ready for it all. Trying to scrabble down to get beside Trump so he could look big. Yeah, here's some of the video for TV viewers. The video's up on Infowars.com. Fox and Friends and others covered it. Bottom left-hand side of the screen, scrabbling down to get next to President Trump. Look, he's not even supposed to be there on the edge, groveling to Trump, the same guy he's constantly attacking and going after, the God. It's like in Ghostbusters, Zool asked them, are you a god? And they said, no, then die. He says, next time somebody asks you if you're a god, you tell them yes. No amount of pyramids in the night and all-seeing eyes will make you a god, fool. You little greedy, selfish monster. God gave you the path to the entire universe through your progeny and through the long march that humanity has to earn. And then you just sit there and declare yourself a god because you reportedly pop synthetic high-tech ecstasy every day and think you are a god. You're just a dime a dozen, another delusional nobody. And it goes further. CNN says, and the fake news king Acosta says, that Trump got absolutely dissed by the Polish first lady, and that Merkel, you know, he grabbed her hand or whatever. No one wants to shake his hand. He's such a failure. He's such a nobody. And they sit there with cameras watching, waiting while he shakes hundreds of hands for somebody to go past him and shake Melania's hand first because hers was already outstretched. That happens to everybody anytime you go out in public at a wedding or whatever. It happens to everybody. They turn it in to he's a failure. No one wants to shake his hand. Imagine the pathetic viewers, the few 100,000 that watch the average show, the few million that still watch CNN total, who see that and think, oh, good, he's a failure. We're still in the in club. You're not in the in club watching CNN. The globalists don't give you anything. You just fantasize that you're part of the elite, and then you fantasize that Trump's failing, and you fantasize that no one wants to shake his hand. How pathetic. And so they tell you Melania wouldn't hold his hand in Israel. She's like 10 feet behind him, about to shake somebody else's hand. He puts his hand back. She's not there. Oh, my gosh, no one wants to touch him. He's shunned. He's a nobody. He's not a maverick. He's a failure. He isn't his own man. He gets it all from Bannon. He gets it all from Alex Jones. He gets it all from Roger Stone. Let me tell you something. You talk to Trump, he does the talking. It just shows how unbelievable their disinfo is and how it's failing. CNN has gone to 1 star on iTunes overnight, and they have lower ratings than re-airs of Yogi Bear. It's all coming up. All right, a lot of good news going on, but don't forget, we've also got the situation where top military commander in the Pacific is saying we are ready to hit North Korea, and that President Trump is preparing very, very serious actions because they are a clear and present danger with nuclear weapons, threatening to preemptively strike folks. That's like taking a gun out, loading a bullet into the chamber, putting it to somebody's head and saying, I'll pull the trigger. You have a right to stand up against that person. And it shows how truly mentally ill they are. U.S. vows tougher action on North Korea after missile test. I want to get to Putin and Trump's first meeting here in a moment. But first off today, what do you make of the total collapse of CNN and the fact that you can really officially, as a media analyst, say that CNN is dead? I am here to declare on 7/7, the 7th day of July, 2017. Think about that. It's 7/7/17. 777. Good old lucky sevens. That CNN is officially dead because mainstream media, from the Washington Post to others, are all turning on them. They have ratings lower than basically anything on cable, lower than reruns of Yogi Bear. We have those Nielsen ratings up on Infowars.com. We are seeing the total collapse of very fake news. So you can mark this date. They're still going to leave a facade up. They're going to keep up appearances. They don't want to admit they've been totally destroyed. It's like Piers Morgan. I said, watch, Piers Morgan, after I was on a show, I said, he'll be off the air in 1 year. And a year later, he was off the air. And I predicted, I said, but they'll still give him a monthly magazine show for a year so they can quietly bury him and it's not embarrassing. Now, how did I know that? Because that's what they always do. Brian Williams, when he got caught lying about, being shot down in helicopters and beating Muhammad Ali in a heavyweight boxing match, and all the other ridiculous, he didn't really say that, I'm being sarcastic. He did say he got shot down in a helicopter and a lot of other fake news. They gave him a monthly magazine show, but they think you're so stupid they've all been caught lying. They've brought him back to MSNBC to do reports on fake news. I guess they think you'll get confused and go, oh, he's the fake news expert. I do associate him with fake news. Oh, I guess he's the expert that exposes it, not one of the biggest charlatans this country and this world have ever seen. But stick a big old fat juicy fork in it. CNN is dead. CNN, I declare CNN politically, credibility-wise, ratings-wise, by every yardstick. It'd be like if I had some benefactor, which we don't have, that would pay the $40 million a year. Yes, that's how much it costs to run an operation with almost 100 crew members and folks now and all the bandwidth and the infrastructure and the legal and all of it. Sounds like a lot. It's not. Medium-sized newspapers cost that much to run today. But imagine if I didn't have 40, 50 million viewers and listeners a week, and then we were just spending, CNN spends something like $1 billion a year. Imagine if $1 billion a year just keeps getting spent and they've got 100,000 viewers on average. That's pretending you're a news agency. That's pretending people are still watching you. That's pretending you still have an effect. And instead of backing off the lies that brought them to this point, that the WikiLeaks documents, the fake polls, the giving the questions beforehand for the debates, Hillary directing everything, instead of that, CNN is quadrupling with Acosta, attacks Trump for holding a fake news conference, and then gets his facts wrong, saying Trump is lying, saying that 17 agencies didn't unanimously say that Russia gave him the election, when those agencies have now said, we never said that. The New York Times made that up. This has been a huge controversy for 2 weeks. But he thinks CNN viewers are that dumb. Trump got it right. He said it was only 3 agencies said it. And it wasn't even agencies. It was analysts from those agencies that had worked for Obama. So Trump actually didn't get it completely right. It's worse than what President Trump said. Trump got it basically right that it was 3 people. He said 3 agencies. It was not 3 agencies. It was people from 3 agencies that have been up Obama's rear end and Clapper's rear end the entire time. So that's all coming up straight ahead. And then the intrepid reporter for Rebel Media, Laura Loomer, who confronted the so-called journalist, the king of fake news, Chris Como, the Corleone of the Communist News Network, confronted on his lies straight ahead. All right, let's get serious and get focused here. I'm in a really good mood because everything CNN and MSNBC and ABC News and NBC Touch is turning into explosions in their face. I mean, they've got the hand grenade touch, but they pull the pin of the hand grenade and it blows up in their face. We're going to be talking to the reporter who staked out CNN and talked to the wannabe celebrity, Chris Como, with his driver and his black SUV and feeling important, feeling powerful. You can do that for like $50 per ride. They do that for all their CNN people to again, create the illusion, like psychological warfare chief Edward Bernays said back in the 20s, that they are the new royalty. Make the media with red carpets, with flash bulbs. They used to send out to get the pump primed to Hollywood events as soon as the talkies started, people with cameras to take pictures from the production studio to create the illusion that these were really important people. It's all an act. But at least in the old days, they had giant audiences and fooled the population for a while. Now the population of the world, but particularly Western Europe and the United States, hates Hollywood and cannot stand it. China is lapping it up right now, especially dumbed-down propaganda. That's why most of the Hollywood films you see have kind of a Chinese communist, weird angle, and Hollywood admits that. So that's also accelerating the demise of the sickening, fetid globalist establishment and cannot make me any more happier. People are so sick of teleprompters. They're so sick of garbage. So Laura Loomer joining us, intrepid reporter. She got arrested for getting up during their Murder the President CNN-funded play. And just simply said, no more calls for political violence as they've been doing. We are clearly saying we don't want violence. CNN won't decry it against the president or Congressman Scalise or others. They have guests on that say the shooter wasn't evil. When we do joke memes and stuff that show Indiana Jones, blasting the CNN logo, or I'm throwing darts at Anderson Cooper, the last thing I want is harm to Anderson Cooper. Because Anderson Cooper is a joke. Anderson Cooper never had viewers in the 10 years he's been on air, but now he's really a joke. In fact, I hope they keep the facade propped up, the living dead propped up, because CNN is officially dead with credibility, with ratings, you name it. There's no resuscitating it. But watching them prop it up, kind of like, the weekend at CNN's, the weekend at Bernie's, watching it rot and crows pull the eyeballs out and the tongue hanging out and swelling up and the guts swelling up and then bursting all over the stage and just seeing the decay and then the worms pouring out of the mouth and the pus squirting out of the ears. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. It just can't get any better. Everybody knows I've been on here 22 years. When stuff's negative and we're in trouble, I will tell you we're losing to get you up off your butt and to take action. But let me tell you right now, the arrogance of people like Zucker thinking we're a bunch of dumb effers is beautiful. And it's only accentuating our victories. Now, they've got a few aces in the hole, secrets nobody knows. But we're going to get into those. Laura Loomer in just a moment. First off, ladies and gentlemen, we are running specials right now, 30% off on X2, the Deep Earth, good halogen, the opposite of the fluoride, the bromine, the chlorine, the good, true iodine, not the toxic garbage that they spew out and that you can pick up at the store or whatever that's for topical, but the real, clean, true iodine, not some byproduct of industrial use, but real, clean iodine. We're the only folks that have it. InfoWarsLife.com. Your purchase makes it possible. DNA Force, with, again, the only biologically derived form of bio-PQQ. Everything else out there, there's some other brands that put out the real stuff, but every other version is synthetic, and it's still $40, $50, $60 a bottle just for a small dose of the synthetic stuff. But the studies out there show that that's not being absorbed as much. 170 plus studies on bio-PQQ. You notice we're even allowed to make claims on this because it's known to regrow nerves. It's known to detoxify the mitochondria in the cells. This is amazing. It's it's the ultimate antioxidant. Something like 40 kegs, 40 little, packages of blueberries don't have the same antioxidant effect as one dose of bio-PQQ, and that's in each pill. And we've got a bunch of other stuff, the CoQ10 and a bunch of other patented acids and other amino acids that help you upload it better. DNA Forces back, 20% off, even though it's been 5 months since we've had it. We're extending the 4th of July specials with free shipping. On top of that, an additional 10% off when you sign up for auto ship. Some of these products are loss leaders. By the way, you hear a lot of My Patriot Supply ads on radio. They're the biggest company in the U.S. now. Just been around 9 years. But because of quality and because of affordability, they become the dominant company in the U.S. I signed a special deal 2 years ago to be able to private label their entire line, still drop ship by them, to get around their contracts with other distributors and suppliers, to give it to you 30 to 40% off. Now, usually it's only 10% off of my contract, but I'm allowed to, a few times a year, to have it 30 to 40% off. We're doing that right now. It's about to end. You will not get My Patriot cheaper anywhere except InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. And I hope for the best, prepare for the worst. I think we're going to fix North Korea. I hope that the regime takes out Kim Jong-un. I hope China continues to put pressure on him. But if stuff goes sideways, and top analysts say this is the most dangerous time ever, you're going to need water filtration, you're going to need storable foods, you're going to need firearms. And I just hope if you're getting prepared and provisioned on the front of water filtration, which you need anyways, and storable foods at InfoWarsStore.com. Or 888-253-3139. But again, thank you all for your support. Finally, please support our local affiliates. Become a sponsor, support their sponsors, let the sponsors know you're supporting them because you support the broadcast and the station, or send them $100 a month. Stop tithing to that New World Order church that won't stand up against globalism or abortion or world government or won't speak out against gun control or are scared of the IRS even though it's your First Amendment right. If you want to tithe that local radio station that's telling the truth and putting this broadcast on air. You want to tithe to your own health, your family's own health, and this broadcast. Sign up for auto ship and get discounts on great products. 360 wins. Using what God gave us through Mother Nature to counter the globalist onslaught. A win-win. Now, Laura Loomer is an amazing reporter and journalist. I can't go over all the great things that she's obviously done. She's with TheRebel.media. I was just talking to their founder and one of the main owners of it just the other day. He's going to come down and visit me next month here in Texas to talk about working more with Rebel Media, because I love the work they're doing, and I want to try to synergistically magnify in a win-win anybody that's fighting tyranny. Well, she and others like Jack Posobiec and, of course, many others have been camped outside the fake news mothership, CNN, the besieged mothership, where we've officially declared their post-mortem. They are dead on arrival due to lying, cheating, stealing, fraud, racketeering, intimidation, blackmail, scams, taking foreign money from Saudi Arabia and Qatar to push pro-Wahhabist views. They took hundreds of millions of dollars, we now know. Oh, yeah, that's from internal sources. We've had some of them on to launch the Arab Spring, to promote the jihad worldwide. They are a true enemy of this country. And Laura Loomer, I guess it was yesterday, staked out and ran into the thug brother of the governor of New York, Chris Cuomo, who said, you're not allowed to read WikiLeaks, only he is. And of course, the memes are, you're not allowed to blackmail, only CNN can. And so, again, as a con man, he continued with his arrogance to the end that he's in charge and everything's fine as the facade of the thug is propped up. But again, even the yes men around him hate him. Even his own producers are in 3 different videos saying everyone hates him. He's an idiot. He's arrogant. He's stupid. He doesn't even know what he's doing. He can hardly read off a teleprompter. Everyone hates him. He's only here because of his brother. This place is collapsing. The toilets are overflowing. There isn't even janitorial service. I mean, I've been inside there. It is a filth hole. I mean, I announced when I was there 4 years ago that it was dead already, but now it's official. And so this is all they've got is, again, their own lies that they're still surviving. Laura Loomer, do you agree with me that we can declare CNN dead at this point and they're just being propped up like Bernie?
Yeah, I agree 110%, Alex. It's really sad when people are more concerned with memeing CNN than they are actually watching CNN. And that's the point that CNN has finally reached.
All they are is a clown to be pilloried.
No, I mean, they've become a total joke. And, as we've seen over the past 2 weeks or so with the combination of the Project Veritas videos and, embarrassing comments from CNN commentators and anchors and just a continued implosion in the media, I don't know how they're still functioning as a network.
Well, they've got to prop it up, just like they did when Piers Morgan finally left. I predicted, because it wasn't hard to predict, that they would put him out to pasture with a once-a-month magazine show. But see, you can't put a 24-hour so-called news station that's fake news, that's branded as anti-American filth from WikiLeaks until now. You can't turn that off without it being really a death knell of the entire industry. But I think that now that the rest of the fake news industry has turned against them, I believe that is the final bellwether that they know it's dead and no resuscitation.
Well, yeah, I would agree, but it's not dead until their advertisers pull out. So if people really want to put a nail in the coffin, they need to really start taking action into their own hands and going after the advertisers. It's really up to the American people to put pressure on all of these groups and organizations and like media companies that sponsor CNN. So if we're able to convince them to drop their sponsorship and funding of CNN, then we're able to take down CNN once and for all. Just similar to what Mike Cernovich was saying as well, too. You need to go after the airports that refuse to show any other news coverage besides CNN fake news. We need to target them and all of their sponsors, all of their advertisers, and make them completely irrelevant, just non-existent.
I've sat there hundreds of times in airports and noticed that no one's watching CNN. I guarantee you, and I don't want to be on the airports, that would be a badge of dishonor, and I mean, we were state-run, but if they put your show, my show, any real show on, talking about real issues with real energy, people pick up, it's teleprompter-free instantly. Everyone would be glued to those TVs, but no one watches it because they know it's like the prison food. Nobody wants to eat it.
Well, it's supposed to be white noise, right? It's propaganda. They just want you to hear it as you're walking through the airport. I mean, no one really watches the news when they're in the airport, but if you hear that, that fake news ringing in your ear, in the background as you're waiting for hours for a layover, they're just driving propaganda into your mind, and that's really why I think that these airports are so useful. As a tactic for CNN for spreading fake news and indoctrinating people on the left, and just creating really a civil war within this country. That's the goal of CNN, in my opinion. So we got to get it out of the airports.
That's right. I'm going to go ahead and announce this meme because I want everybody to make it. We need to have Rowdy Piper when the drone flies over and he goes, "Hello, my little friend. Come to tell them where I am. Not nice." And he shotguns it. And we're not calling for violence when we do that. It's that we're just simply pointing out that we want it out of our consciousness. We, in our own minds, are permanently marking it as absolutely enemy transmissions.
Look, CNN doesn't have a problem with violence. I don't know if people know this, but Time Warner CNN was one of the top media sponsors of the Julius Caesar play here in New York. But now that the tables have turned on them, they're all of a sudden, anti-violence. But where were they speaking out a few weeks ago when people were encouraging the assassination of Donald Trump, right? So I don't want to hear CNN complain about how memes are threatening and, memes are violent, because CNN has never cared about inciting violence. All they do is incite violence 24/7 with their fake news propaganda.
And by the way, how is your case going? Were you charged? I know you got arrested I mean, when Antifa runs up and takes over events for hours and lets no one speak in New York, that's totally normal. De Blasio loves it. But you just went up there for a minute and said, stop promoting political violence right after Congressman Scalise had been shot because they wouldn't decry it.
Yeah, not even a minute, 33 seconds. But yeah, I have court in August. August 14th is my court date. And, you know, I've been working with a lawyer to see, you know, what the best case scenario would be. But I'm waiting till my court date.
Now, set this up for us where you confronted Cuomo yesterday.
So I staked out of CNN and Jeff Zucker's residence actually yesterday all morning. You have to be there very early because, of course, these shows begin very early in the morning. And, you know, I currently have the addresses and schedules for nearly every single CNN anchor that lives in New York City, right? So this is only going to continue. I waited outside of the CNN headquarters here in New York, and I pinpointed Cuomo's driver, and I positioned myself near the vehicle so that when he was getting out of the building, I would be there as he was entering.
And let's roll from there. Here it is.
Mr. Cuomo, I have a quick question for you. Why did you delete a tweet in which you were encouraging the extortion of a Reddit user who posted a meme about CNN?
There was no encouraging any extortion. It wasn't a teenager. And the reason I took the tweet down was because the decision had already been made. I thought it was more conditional about whether or not his name was going to be released, and it wasn't. His name was already, going to be kept private because of his own actions and their concerns about his privacy. So it didn't make any sense, so I took it down. It's not the first time I deleted it.
Do you think that it's appropriate for CNN to be targeting private citizens over memes that CNN doesn't like?
I don't think that's what happened, and I think you should look at the other content that was on that site and think about who you're defending.
Don't you think it's free speech?
You heard what I said, right?
But you guys accuse Trump of bullying.
Then she got approached by CNN security for talking to someone on the street. Or bullying.
You cannot take a picture or report of the Town Warner CNN. You have to move it to the site.
I'm not allowed to record?
No, don't record it to the tweet.
Yeah, you can record on the street, you jackass.
The public sidewalk.
No.
They had CNN security get in my face after I destroyed Piers Morgan.
Thanks. Oh.
Unbelievable. She's out on the sidewalk in a public comment. She's out in the street, and they're saying she has no First Amendment. Again, bullies, thug bullies. Unbelievable. Laura Loomer, straight ahead. I'm Alex Jones. She's with the Rebel Media. I'm with InfoWars. Spread the word today. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got big breaking news. This just broke in the Associated Press in the last 10 minutes. Now, do I believe fake news? AP got caught in a big fake news scandal. Normally, you can't believe a lot of what the AP says, but if it's an official release by President Trump, it's been announced by the White House, whitehouse.gov, we'll put it on screen, and I will read that on screen for folks. They're printing it for me now, but if we can just put that article on screen, I will read it. Again, we're teleprompter free, but they can put articles on screen for me. AP sources, U.S., Russia reach deal on Syria ceasefire. Now, just 2 minutes ago, this was only 3 lines. Now it's a whole story. They're getting more info. We'll go into the next hour a little bit with Laura Loomer so she can finish up. The United States and Russia have reached agreement on a ceasefire in southwest Syria, 3 U.S. officials said Friday as President Donald Trump held his first meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The deal marks a new level of involvement for the U.S. in trying to resolve Syria's civil war. Although details about the agreement and how it will be implemented weren't immediately available, the ceasefire is set to take effect Saturday or Sunday at noon, Damascus time, and the officials who weren't authorized to discuss the ceasefire publicly spoke condition anonymity. Jordan and Israel also are part of the agreement. One of the officials said the 2 U.S. allies both share a border with the southern part of Syria and have been concerned about violence from Syrian civil war spilling over the border. The deal to separate from the de-escalation zones that were to be created under the deal brokered by the Russians, Turkey, and Iran earlier this year. The U.S. was not part of that deal. Follow-up talks this week in Kazakhstan to finalize a ceasefire in those zones failed to reach agreement. The U.S. and Russia have been backing opposing sides of the Syrian war, with Moscow supporting Syria President Bashar Assad and Washington supporting rebels who have been fighting Assad. Both the U.S. and Russia oppose the Islamic State group in Syria. Now, that's AP lying right there. I've interviewed the folks that brief Congress, both on air and off air, some of them generals, some of them colonels, you know, Colonel Schaefer. 98% of them are al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, Wahhabist. They're Sunni. They are backed by Saudi Arabia. They are the group. And so when you hear the U.S. has been backing the moderate rebels, that was under Obama, not now with Trump. That's why they've almost knocked out al-Qaeda and Syria and ISIS, because now we're able to go after them. They're not moderate rebels. They're posing as moderate rebels. They're almost defeated. So now the time is coming for Assad to step down, as he told the Pentagon he would do 5 years ago when they came in and didn't let Obama launch a ground war. Now it's time for Assad to begin the elections and moving out once the final pockets are mopped up. We're going to come back with 5 more minutes with Laura Loomer and her confrontation with fake news king Chris Cuomo. But first, here's a clip of the press conference they were having before they went into another meeting, and these announcements were made just in the last 10 minutes. Here is President Trump meeting with President Vladimir Putin.
It's going very well. We've had some very, very good talks. We're going to have a talk now, and obviously that will continue. But we look forward to a lot of very positive things happening for Russia, for the United States, and for everybody concerned. And it's an honor to be with you.
Then we've got another clip here of them first shaking hands. Trump came over to find where Putin was at to shake his hand. Our media, our government, the shadow government, the deep state has been trying to keep people from just believing that our president's allowed to meet with foreign leaders. He is. He's the president. Final comments from Laura Loomer straight ahead. Then Steve Quayle on the North Korea situation, your phone calls, and more. I'm Alex Jones. This is History Happening. Stay with us. The limelight. We know Mark Hahn, believing he's a god, is not in the limelight. A wide open wonderment of the universe. Not eliminated. Believes he's eliminated. And all he's done is tied his spirit to darkness. Coming up in the next segment, AP, U.S.-Russia reached deal on Syria ceasefire. Big news. Steve Quayle will join us. We'll talk about North Korea and more with top U.S. commander in the Pacific saying U.S. ready to launch military operations against North Korea. Laura Loomer, you finish up with the great work you're up to. What happened? Cuomo trying to act arrogant. Where you see the future of fake news going, what it signifies to have the rest of the fake news turning on CNN.
Well, like I said, I'm going to continue to go after CNN and expose them. As I mentioned, I have the personal information of nearly every single top anchor on every CNN program. So, you know, it's going to happen. They're going to be confronted. You know, I just see it, it's a continued downfall, right? I don't see CNN having any chance of saving itself, any chance of redemption. I predict that in the coming weeks, people will start to put pressure on the advertisers, and more advertisers will drop their support from CNN. I think it's very dismal at this point for CNN and the fake news media. It's not just CNN, though, right? They're probably the shining example or the face of what it means to be fake news. But, you know, there's also a problem with MSNBC and a lot of these other, you know, mainstream media propagandists like the New York Times, for example, the Washington Post. They all need to be taken down. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I think really it lies in the hands of the American people and citizen journalists, right? Because the mainstream media doesn't want to report on the fake news. They don't want to hold each other accountable because they're all friends at the end of the day. So it's up to people in the...
I agree, though. So what does it signify they're starting to turn on each other? Because, I mean, they're all complete jokes. What does that signify?
Well, it's a war, right? They're imploding. It's bad enough when the American people hate you, but But from within, we're seeing that there's a lack of communication and that they're tearing each other apart from within. You saw in the James O'Keefe video, the producer for Chris Cuomo said that he couldn't stand listening to him talk, that nobody at CNN likes Chris Cuomo. So clearly they have a lack of communication. They hate each other. And if you can't support yourself in a time of war, you're going to lose.
In the last minute and a half, we have Laura Loomer of the Rebel Media. What are they going to do to counter this? I mean, we know they've done false flags. We know they're trying to start wars. We know they're trying to bring in Islamicists. How do you think they're going to respond? I mean, they've been pushing violence as well.
Right. Well, I have a theory that CNN is going to stage an attack on one of their own reporters or anchors, right? We see that they had no problem creating a fake news story with Russia and pushing this propaganda for what, over a year and a half now. So what's to say that they wouldn't stage violence or some type of gun attack or...
They promoted the Arab Spring that's killed over 1 million people.
Yeah. So I predict that in the coming weeks we'll see something, another staged news story where a CNN anchor was walking down the street and they were attacked by a citizen journalist or someone fired a gun or someone did something, but it's going to be completely made up and enforced by the fake news media.
And then they're going to show all the joke memes and everything of, Trump biting people's heads off or whatever.
Just like all of these hoax, these hate crimes that are hoaxes. Yeah, of course, some of them are real, but how many of these hoaxes have we seen since Donald Trump took
99% are hoaxes. Laura Loomer, you're absolutely right. And now, even if CNN staged something, nobody buys into it. I mean, we just don't believe anything they say. They can say the sky was blue. We'll be right back with Steve Quayle. Stay with us. Well, over in Germany today, 100,000 Soros-funded goons, they admittedly are funded by Soros, it's just a joke how bad he is, are running around, burning police cars, breaking cars, attacking shops, while the Trumps and their family all glamorously walk around inside the cordon promoting Western civilization and battling radical Orthodox Islam. The globalists went too far in their open alliance with Islam in an attempt to flood Europe and the United States with Muslims to then make us basically submit to them and convert to the end of free speech in the name of not stirring them up. That has failed, and that's even gotten a lot of the intelligence agencies and people to finally turn against globalism. And for Trump to go to Poland yesterday and declare that they will never overthrow the West, and that's not a racist idea, it's an idea of Renaissance, true free societies. You can live here as long as you let others live. It's amazing. CNN's alliance with the Arab Spring, with Al-Qaeda, with ISIS, it's all coming home to roost. It's all coming out. Now, Steve Quayle's been talking about the leftist alliance with Islam for 20 years I've known. And quite frankly, that's one of the things that I just couldn't believe 20 years ago or 15 years ago hearing folks like David Horowitz talk about it. But truly, they've cited, I guess, because it's 1.5 billion Muslims, and their numbers are set to double. Most of the world population growth is Muslims, to 3 billion by like 2025. That's not very far away, is it? 2026, 2027, we're talking 10 years away. And so they've made a demographic deal with the devil, I guess, during the influx and the transition period to being demis is the term. It's like a slave of Islam. You pay a tax. You're allowed to live during the processing. And then I guess our elites think they'll go along with that. It's quite sickening. So I think that's why you see a big revolt against globalism, because we're finally getting down to the chopping block here. So there's Merkel and Trump shaking hands. You've got the ceasefire that just got reportedly agreed to by Putin and Trump an hour ago, just broke 15 minutes ago. All that's taking place. Then you've got the Vatican, the number 2 guy. They say number 3, but he was really the number 2 guy. The aide-de-camp to the Pope, reportedly indicted for rounding up hundreds of children for rape and other horrible things. This is all happening. And then gay orgy raids last week. InfoWars broke that here in the United States 3 days before mainstream media. What are they going to do? And why is all this happening at once with this final big piece of the puzzle for me to ask Steve Quayle, who's got a great mind when it comes to this, best-selling author, big coast-to-coast guest, probably the most popular guest on there, and, of course, his own talk show host when he feels like, doing it. U.S. vows tougher action on North Korea after missile test. That's New York Times. U.S. commander in South Korea were prepared for war with North Korea. Trump's considering severe options for North Korea, what they might be. We're going to go over some of those and what this could trigger. Do we have China and Russia on board? They're signaling more and more they are, but saying the U.S. shouldn't be doing drills. What are we supposed to do while North Korea threatens to nuke Tokyo and Seoul, South Korea? So this is all escalating, and Steve Quayle of SteveQuayle.com, for the first time ever, joins us via video Skype. It was great having him here in studio with us, I guess, 6 months ago or so. He's also a documentary filmmaker in his own right, of really amazing stuff. We carry some of his films at InfoWarsStore.com. Wow, Steve, I mean, you heard me just the last 3 minutes kind of lay out some of the points. There are those times in history, as you've said many times, as historians have said, where more happens in a few years than happened the previous 100 when it comes to what's going to affect the future. I think we're approaching a quickening, a tipping point. What has been hidden is coming out. Great good is coming to the world, while great evil is coming into the world. Great understanding is happening, more information than ever, but never more stupid people, never more intelligent people. I mean, it's very biblical what we see happening. World government being announced, AI computers being announced, human-animal hybrids that you talked about 20 years ago, now all confirmed, but they still attack us for talking about it. We're not going to get into this in this interview, but you get into giants that the Bible talks about. Now they've dug up giants, though they were only 6'3", but for the time, that was giant for China. They're in China. All these crazy things starting to, come to the fore. Media Matters, run by George Soros, tried to imply that I said man, bear, pig, one half man, one half bear, one half pig. That would be 150%, not 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. I came out and said that I've talked to scientists, I've talked to engineers, I've talked to genetic engineers. Well, hell, we can show you photos of mice with ears growing on them and pigs that are part human. That's mainstream news. And they say it's horrifying. Well, they edited it to make it look like I said 80% pig, 80% cow. I said, no, they're 80% pig, 20% human, 80% cow, 20% human. And that's just some of the variants to grow humanoids in uterus. That's MIT. I'm reading from MIT. But again, they don't want us to talk about the geoengineering. They don't want us to talk about all the things that they admit they're doing, but that remain secret. Then they take the more, provincial kind of slang terms people use, like chemtrails, and say that we're saying that there's no such thing as ice crystals. No, there's real condensation. We're talking about the CFR, the UN Treaty, 1979 on weather weapons, admitting all this is going on. So, Steve Quayle, you're the guy that first wrote about chemtrails, geoengineering, 20-plus years ago. You're the guy that first wrote about the chimeras outside of literature where they admit it. So let's get into the current state of the world geopolitically and why so much is happening just this last month and where this is going.
Well, Alex, I think it's incredibly timely that we're having this show today because it's on the 17th. Excuse me. 7/7. We are, we're right at the time period. What is it? 7/7/17. And that's a very significant number because I've been on record and with you and the shows we've done over the years is saying there's nothing that's been hidden that isn't going to be made known and revealed. And it's happening in the areas of science. It's happening in the areas of the super soldier program. We've done shows on that. But let's talk about North Korea. North Korea is obviously being given advanced technology. It's being given background nuclear materials, obviously guidance systems, two-stage rocketry. And I want to share this from my background sources and the guys who really know what's going on. They're claiming it was a vertical launch. And the reason the North Koreans put it vertically as opposed to any type of a trajectory or an arch trajectory was so that the skeptics could say, well, they don't have ICBMs. They most certainly do. Most people don't remember the days of the famous Dr. Khan in Pakistan, where literally you could get anything you want and the nuclear weapons delivery guidance systems on the black market if you had the money. So the official club that's achieved nuclear delivery or throw rate capability is way different than those who possess nuclear weapons that may be already strategically placed in the United States. I think the North Koreans are absolutely taking they're pot shots, but I also believe that all of the different groups, the terrorist groups, and some that are in possession of nuclear weapons are basically going to detonate something someplace. It will be, in my opinion, a false flag. And because you're in Austin, I would really encourage all those who live in Austin, the Special Forces community, that obviously you guys have trillion-dollar budgets to put space-based weaponry, and I think it's about time that the good guys in that realm started using it, because, you know, we're hearing rockets, counter rocket interceptors, S-400 systems from Russia, this, that, the other thing, hypersonic missiles. But, Alex, there is a realm of weaponry that all those trillions and actually tens of trillions of dollars have disappeared into, and so what I see is basically obviously, people are using North Korea to take their best shot. They're going to test Donald Trump's will and resolve. But again, for those good people in the military, those ones who know on a majestic level what we have access to, space-based weapons platform, high frontier, Danny Graham's project.
Sure, you're talking about particle beams, radiation weapons that are fifth-generation neutron bombs. We can take out all of North Korea's military in about 2 minutes with those. And then the only question is, that would be, I guess you could argue, mass murder, because the radiation weapons, even though more directed now, would still kill a lot of civilians. But can we just sit here and wait for North Korea to launch a nuke at Tokyo?
No, and obviously today, and I think this is critical information, that Hawaii is telling their people, the Hawaiian Islands are critical, not just because of Pearl Harbor, but on Kauai, where the Pacific Missile Theater range is, that controls the entire Pacific. Now, who would benefit the most from the takeout of Kauai and their Barking Sands base would obviously blind us, and that's also Space Command controls the aerial assets. So when you've got the Hawaiians and even their governor and political figures saying, look, you better learn to shelter in place. You better be set for 14 days. You've got Japanese, the picture you saw of the lady huddled under a concrete path between a little creek and the highway, or not the highway, the roadway. I think it's very telling. And remember, Putin, President Putin, this is something that people do not understand. The idea that civil defense doesn't matter is only in the United States. Russia even tested the repositioning of 40 million of their citizens. What does that say? President Putin cares about his people. Our military-industrial complex doesn't care about us, though the billionaire bunkers, and I'm talking about all of the elite, they're all headed to higher ground. So the fact that Hawaii, Japan, and Guam is obviously in the target, and you know this, even I guess hours ago, we flew 2 bombers, B-1 bombers, over the disputed area of China. Well, the president of China and Donald Trump are sitting next together. My prayer is that somebody who's honest, and this may be literally asking God to put a miracle in, that someone will fill the president in. And by the way, presidential security and clearances are not the top. There's 28 degrees of top-level security. It goes into majestic, cosmic. Now, this isn't stuff that is just the
sure, it's just like Space Command's been around before NASA, but they just now announced it this week.
Yep. Absolutely. And the thing is that this, notice what's happening. You can take any subject matter, whether it's in the defense, whether it's in the biological engineering. I'm on record, you know this, that human cloning has been accomplished decades ago.
But that's admitted. I mean, they now have admitted, okay, 30 years ago we created human clones. We just killed them in the test tube or in utero. No, they didn't. They didn't. And I've literally talked to Special Operations Command generals, 4 stars, people in the intelligence community. And when you've got guys that are professional hitters, assassins in the intelligence community weeping about the things that they saw in cages in the underground bases, you know, how many times have we been said or been told we're kooky, the alternate media just makes this stuff up? By the way, let's show a lot of mainstream news articles while we do this. Mainline news admitting human-animal chimeras have now been gestated. MIT are now born. But we're demanding people show this, that the world see this, that this be discussed, that this be debated. I mean, I'm not even going to say the stuff I've been told by high-level folks because the media would have a field day with it, even though it's in the literature confirming it. Now, let's get back to North Korea. Yes, sir. What do you make of the fact that the Kazakhstan meeting supposedly fell through, but when Trump and Putin got together 2 hours ago. They agreed on a ceasefire. That's big because we know some of the McMasters and folks wanted a wider war to take out Assad when he never started the war. But 5 years ago, the Pentagon did make a deal to ignore Obama and we first broke this, I heard just confirmed it, now it's mainstream news, just to tell folks, that Assad would go for elections once we beat ISIS and Al-Qaeda and then would leave. So we are approaching the point where Assad, down the road in the next year or so, is supposed to start leaving.
Well, again, this is going to the 5-year plan that General Wesley Clark spoke about. And I would say this, everybody should recognize that the United States has more to gain by a friendly relationship between President Putin and President Trump than we do by going to war. And when I see the neocons and I see the same people that were cutting deals with the Russian over the uranium, mines and areas in this country, Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, and claiming Russia's interference. If I were Vladimir Putin, I would simply say this. Let me show you our business dealings with the Clinton Foundation, because, again, I believe that, Alex, you have helped, and I say this honestly, to reestablish the narrative. They are trying to take control of the Russian narrative to cover their own stink, they being the Democrats, they being the globalists. And I am
sure. I mean, all of us together, Trump especially, but Drudge, yourself, George Norrie, everybody. The truth is, everything they did, they blamed on Trump. And so what you're saying is, the meeting in Kazakhstan fell through. This one has worked because the two men have actually bypassed the bureaucracy. That shows why these high-level bilateral meetings are important. It shows why they didn't want Trump to have this meeting. But absolutely, Russia, if they really want deals and want to de-escalate, they should play their Trump card, which is the fact that they were paying off Hillary and they were paying off the Podestas. And so why doesn't Russia play that card?
Well, I think, and I believe that Russia's waiting to see some give in the Trump administration. I want to share this with you. I know that there's stuff we can't talk about. And if people fault us and fault the information we give them that's obviously verifiable, that's in the headlines, that's just documented until there's so many footnotes, you don't have enough people to wear the feet with the notes. So the idea is simply this, is that people are lazy, and that's what all the major networks and what I call the vomit brokers, I'm going to go on record, that is a word. They never tell the truth. They only give you regurgitation.
They just regurgitate the same lies forever. So let's expand on this. What are they going to do as their whole complex begins to fall, as they're totally discredited, as Yogi Bear reruns have more viewers than CNN, and they have, half a star on iTunes, as they become negative value, not just worthless, negative value, what do you expect them to do now?
I think they're going to go all-out war. Your previous guest was making a statement that I agree with, you agree with. They will try false flags, but people are going to just say enough of it. We live in a time period, and I want to make this statement. If those of us in alternative media have been telling the truth, and these guys are proven time and time again to be liars, then people should absolutely turn off the networks. And that's why people listen to you, listen to me, listen to those of us in alt news, because we're telling them, look, go do your homework. And Alex, I want to be provocative today to tell people, listen, when Alex does a show, I do a show, any of us do shows, and we're giving you all the documentation you can possibly want, then you got to come to the conclusion, is your apathy, indifference, or your fear keeping you from standing up, speaking out, and putting your financial wherewithal behind it?
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. Yep. Historically, the point, I believe Trump is a reprieve, like Jonah being sent to Nineveh to give them a chance to repent. I believe that this is our chance, not that Trump's perfect or anything, but this move of nationalism, this struggle away from globalism, because we were about to, with Hillary, really go into the end of free speech, mass arrest, huge wars. She said she was going to launch wars, World War III. True evil making Hitler look tame was about to hit us, and that's the only reason people in intelligence agencies, a lot of them who aren't even good people, got cold feet and actually sabotaged Hillary, was because they realized for their own kids, this is insanity. So I think we all better understand, just because we've got a foothold right now, a beachhead, we better know the real lay of the land. Speak to that, and then please get into where we are geopolitically, the players, why what I asked earlier, Steve. Why is it all popping off now? Why is it all chain reactioning now?
Well, first of all, you have stated, and correctly, that we've been given a reprieve. I remember being on Coast to Coast before President Trump really announced he was going to run. George Norrie asked me the question, is that an endorsement? I said yes, because the people that hate him are the people destroying us. And if all those people hate President Trump, in that day, Donald Trump, I said, you guys got my support. Now, why? Because I believe that God gives time and nations a space to repent. And by repentance, I mean they've got to understand that any court, even God's eternal court, is going to present evidence. People say God's not just. Obviously, people say, well, Hollywood says the devil's a great guy to worship. But I believe that, Alex, seriously, when I made this statement that before the United States is destroyed, okay, this is before President Trump, this is before Russia and China, we had any problems with them, okay, everything was hunky-dory, that God would reveal the sins of the leaders to the people and the people's sins before God. Now, look, when you talk about pedophiles, cannibalism, and one of the things I went on record when you started your career, and I was on a couple of years before you did, I said when cannibalism fills the headlines of the news of the day,
I remember.
No, we are at the beginning of the tribulation. That's what I said. Now, how could I know that? I couldn't, okay? Except that I guess my position has been to warn, to admonish, to encourage, and prepare.
Well, it says, as in the days of Noah, so will it be in the days of the Son of Man.
Absolutely. And the thing that people don't understand, I've spent 44 years writing about the days of Noah, the time period of when it wasn't just because people were evil, it was because of the supernatural presence of evil. Let me share this. We were just in Peru, my film crew, Timothy Alberino. We took a conference. There were like 24 people down there, including our crew. And the thing that was interesting is the cover-up is so intense over the, if you will, the megalithic and cyclopean structures of Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo. In the middle of Cusco, Peru, you've got this underground tunnel system. And Alex, every day now, the Aztecs are funding tunnels or the pyramids all over the world.
No, it's crazy. Stay right there. We're going to go to break. When we come back, since you mentioned it, Atlantic Monthly, one of the big globalist mouthpieces, said, we must end Christianity. The sun is setting. Donald Trump, you'll never stop it. And we're going to get the white people. These are white people saying this. All over the news, it says, bring down the West, bring down the West. We don't understand, as evil as we are, you know, command bases like L.A. and places, we are still spiritually protected to a certain extent. We have providence. You go to these third world countries, and like, it's held by evil. It's palpable, and it's the den of devils. It's just, you call it, you know, the culture, the mindset, the 100th monkey. People have given themselves over to corruption, so it's a sixth sense, whatever it is. There's a spirit to nations, and evil wants to destroy Russia. It wants to destroy the United States because Christianity is coming back in these nations. They want to go anywhere in the world they can, in Africa or the Middle East, kill the Christians. That's what the UN wants. Why do they want to kill the Christians? That's what the real war is about, with Steve Quayle of SteveQuayle.com, straight ahead. It's an incredible time to be alive. Good and evil battling each other on our streets, in our churches, in our schools, in our factories, in our hearts and minds. Let me tell you, folks, I saw the light. No more fear. That's the answer. I saw the light. And I don't mean these fake churches that are a bunch of people trying to act like they're better than the next person. I mean, literally, most of these churches are just so satanic I can't even go in them. You can just feel it. But I'm talking about people out standing up against evil, standing up against corruption, being good, taking care of their children, being honorable. A lot of folks get cheated, they get robbed, they get pushed around, they become that person. No, you become better than that. And then that's when you start getting blessed, at least in my experience. And our audience is so amazing. I want to thank you all for your support and everything you've done to make what we do here possible. I want to encourage you to get, well, there's 3 or 4 of these new award-winning, groundbreaking films that Steve Quayle has put together that are good to get people thinking and talking, that are available at SteveQuayle.com. We carry some of the films at InfoWarsStore.com. And I want to tell everybody as well, we are extending the July 4th special throughout the month of July. I've never done this before, but I'm doing it because we're about to build a new studio. We're hiring more people, as you've seen. We're expanding in the face of the globalists because now is the time to be all in, no half measures. So when you purchase products and InfoWarsStore.com, whether it be water filtration, non-GMO heirloom seeds, groundbreaking supplements. It makes everything we do here possible. It makes everything we do here possible. Books, films, documentaries, you name it. So we're extending free shipping store-wide throughout the month. And DNA Force is back in stock. Everything is 20 to 40% off. Amazing Bio PQQ, CoQ10, everything else. The highest quality out there, 20% off. Been sold out for almost 5 months. Our Nascent Iodine, X2, the Good Halogen, it's 30% off. And we've got so many of the other items like the Nootropic, Brain Force Plus with 20% more in each bottle now. That's 30% off. Super Male Vitality and Female Vitality, that's just concentrated known herbs that, again, for whatever reason, through Mother Nature, stamina, libido, energy, and all of it supports the broadcast. I want to thank you all. And in closing on this subject, My Patriot Supply has a lot of dealers, a lot of great folks that sell it, and they're great people. They're, if not the biggest, the second biggest company in the U.S. now, only after like 9 years, because they have low prices, high quality. And I promote and sell their food because they're patriots, because they drop ship within a day of you ordering, and because I can private label right from their factory in Utah it as InfoWars Select and go 10% off their lowest price. In the contract, it says once a year I'm allowed to go 30 to 40% off. Well, they let me break that a little bit, so I am running this, but only for a week more. 30 to 40% off on the My Patriot Supply food at InfoWarsStore.com. You've got to go to the InfoWars Select area. We also have their full spectrum, you know, at regular price. It's still a great deal. So I'm not saying you're going to need this. I hope you don't, but prepare for the worst, hope for the best. We need to be self-sufficient. We need to be ready. We need to have water filtration systems regularly to not be drinking all the glyphosates and crap that's in the water. Look what it's doing to the fish, the mammals, the amphibians. I mean, it's just huge. And they're fighting to cover it up, saying Jones is crazy. You know, he's covering up the, gay frog stuff, or they're covering up the gay frog stuff. It's just crazy what they're doing, or saying I'm making all this up. They're desperate. I talk about the Pope, and I talk about his #2 guy indicted for kidnapping and raping all these hundreds of kids, reportedly, and how it's all coming out. And they just make up a story that I say there's a Mars colony of slave kids. Never said that. Disagreed with it when a guest said it. This is what they do to change the subject. They are desperate. They're scared, and they're only playing the same old plays over and over again. So, again, talk show host, best-selling author, researcher, filmmaker, Steve Quayle of SteveQuayle.com joins us. A lot of interesting information there, to say the least, on his site, from geopolitical to esoteric to biblical. It's all there. Steve, going back to you here, we went to break. We're bringing up the war on Christianity, why all this stuff's breaking loose. Trump is waging a war with other patriots against the pedophile Satanist networks. We know the pedophilia is only the gateway. Let's get into why there's a war against Christianity and what you think this reprieve signifies, and the main thing that you're worried about currently as the globalist. Test Trump with North Korea.
Well, I think the idea, Alex, is that any source of truth has to be silenced. That's why the war is so absolutely blazing against any avenue, you, me, those of us discrediting. Remember, the United States government went on record as saying they're going to have a Department of Propaganda, and that is in full force. But here's the way people can defeat that. They can absolutely turn it off. They don't have to watch ABC. They don't have to watch CBS. They don't have to listen to any of the gag and sputum that is coming out of the mainstream press. Now, also, here is a critical issue. You have rightly stated the issue. They want to kill Christians. They are killing Christians all over. Those are our brethren. Those are people. You played I Saw the Light. I saw the light too. But when we were, and I want to share this, the purpose of TrueLegendsOfSeries.com is to show people the historic cover-up and to illustrate Orwell's statement, they who control the past determine the future. And I'm going to say this, when I wrote the book on Antarctica, Empire Beneath the Ice, there was hardly anything out there about Antarctica except the stuff that was old newsreel footage, the Russian documentary, etc. And then all of a sudden, it broke loose. And then I said the next thing is going to be Mars. And I'm not talking about the kids, that story. I'm talking about the reality. They're claiming that obviously Mars has life, has water, or may have had life. And then that's going to lead ultimately to soft disclosure. So TrueLegendsTheSeries.com, and I want to share this. We're going to break stuff, and this is not an empty promise. We're going to break stuff in Branson, Missouri, September 14th through the 17th, and it'll be available for live streaming to people all over the world, to absolutely show the crushing control of authorities over true history. The last thing they want is anything in the Bible, either the Old Testament or the New Testament, being validated and verified. That's why they're fighting so hard. And so when people go on the website, TrueLegendsTheSeries.com, they can watch the trailers. And ladies and gentlemen, support Alex, because all of these DVDs are available on the InfoWars store. So, Alex, as we were, and this is critical, as we were in Peru, how is it that antiquity and the finds in Peru are so being covered up? What is it that the authorities there and all over the world fear more than anything? And it's truth.
Well, that's another question. You know his name. Who was the famous head of antiquities for like 30-something years in Egypt, who wouldn't let people DNA test? And finally, he's gone. Now the new guy let the Germans and the Russians do it. And even CNN had to admit that it turns out that it was Europeans that founded Egypt, just as Plato said.
Yeah, it was Hawass. That's the guy's last name. H-A-W-A-S-S.
I remember you saying that on Coast to Coast like 20 years ago and 15 years ago with Nori. So you were right about that. That's what the Greeks said. So let's briefly get into Egypt and who really founded that.
Well, first of all, the thing about the Egyptian is most people don't know this, but the word Cairo, the literal city of Cairo, means Mars encampment. The late David Flynn, who wrote a book called Sidonia, The Secret Chronicles of Mars, which I'm the publisher on, proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the astronomical coordinates on Mars match those on Earth.
Let me stop you right there, because I can't get people to admit that MIT admits that headline human-animal hybrids are gestating, mean in utero, in their mothers, in the cows mainly, where they grow the humanoids in, because they have large uteruses, so they can get them up larger for organ harvesting. It's not the size of a baby, more like 30, 40 pounds for those that haven't seen it. And yes, folks, it's in medical literature. We're doing a documentary on it. So the media attacks me for covering things that are real and says I'm insane. But I know when Buzz Aldrin was on, I wanted him on about the moon landing, because they kept saying we didn't do the moon landing. I believed we did. The media said I didn't. So I wanted to disprove that and have them stop hoaxing and saying that I was, saying we didn't have a moon landing. The truth was, I talked to high-level NASA folks who are friends of the family. One of them died a few years ago, Raymond Teague, who were on main mission control of the cameras. So my issue was, I wanted to have him on. He came on my show and only my show, then after one other, and said, there's an obelisk on the moon of Mars. There's bases. Then years later, I'm out in L.A. I talked to Buzz Aldrin. I'm going to just leave it at this, because some of it was off record. He tells me all this other wild stuff, but then tells me in about a year, the Indians will discover water on the moon by crashing a probe in. Let me know you how we know. We found it. We're letting them make the discovery for the world, because the world's not ready yet, Alex. I mean, and then I wanted Buzz on later. I never let that secret out. He told me more. Buzz obviously said, I've had too much pressure. His secretary said, Buzz can't come on. But why is he messing with me? Because I'm not the one saying this. The media is going to say I said that. No, Buzz Aldrin, the second guy to walk on the moon, said that.
No, here's the deal. What he told you is true. And this is something that people have got to understand. There are people risking their lives and many of them are dead. People from my background, when I say my background, people that made contact with me and had told me the most outlandish stories. But the Bible says in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. And so, Alex, when we're talking about stargates, the whole idea of stargates is as old as antiquity itself.
They admit they're trying to build one at the Hadron Collider. They dedicate it to Shiva. They've been caught doing all these weird mock human sacrifices there. What's going on there?
Well, here's the deal. Jesus said that the gates of hell are going to open, but they wouldn't prevail. And what a gate is something that either holds something back or allows something through. So what Hollywood, how about the story on Drudge today, the CIA has been involved in 1,800 war movies? Well, let me make it clear that they have controlled the narrative on science fiction for so long, because that's the way they would leak the truth. Invaders from Mars, the 55, 57 black and white film, was the first movie to deal with implants. little implants that the Martians put in the little boys' parents' back of their skull.
No, and then now they're putting brain chips in the troops.
Absolutely. So, and when I wrote...
And look how CERN's symbol is 3 6s.
Well, not only that, but that's the destroyer. See, this is why CERN, they're opening the gate. The Shiva statue that you see in the background, you just showed it, that absolutely is cosmic destruction and rebirth, okay? It's a Hindu philosophy of reincarnation.
Which is really is a variant of the Illuminati philosophy of the balance of destruction in life, or AKA Darth Vader.
Right, or even simpler than that, order out of chaos. See, what people don't get is that the power of the Illuminati is real. It's not on the same level as God's that he gives to his people, but his people don't believe that God. You know, here's the thing. I'm sorry. The point is, the Satanists believe that Satan's real and gives them power. The Christians are always trying to explain away a supernatural God, a supernatural Savior, Jesus Christ, and the idea that somehow the intellect of gaining the world's acceptance will win people to Jesus. It gains their contempt. So I'm saying this. I believe that, in getting back to your original question, this period we have, a time out, if you will, a time of repentance, a time of reflection. This is the judge of the whole earth laying out evidence as to what the true nature of the United States primarily is, because we were the ones that are funding the globalists. And how many years, Alex, have we gone on? Decades, let's say, of warning people, all the statements. Here it is, folks. They're saying they're going to do this. Here it is, folks. They're doing this. And so I just want people to basically, every man who's listening to this broadcast and listens to your show, Alex, and listens to those of us who are saying this, remember, don't allow the emasculation of your ability to procreate truth be stolen by those who are primarily nothing more than barbarians.
That's right. Don't just play fantasy football, but go out and be involved. And if you can't admit they're trying to do forced vaccines or have chimeras, or that 82% of the smallmouth bass nationwide are bisexual now because of the chemicals, if you can't admit all the admitted wildness, how will you admit the even craziness of we're on a planet in deep space and what the Bible tells us? Now expanding, whether some of this esoteric stuff is actually real or not, the globalists believe it's all real. Every culture believed it. They believe they're manifesting it. Macron has been in front of the big black pyramid with the all-seeing eye sworn in. We'll put that on screen for TV viewers in a minute. Then he says last week, I am God, declares a dictatorship, puts France under civil emergency. Our media doesn't even make a big deal out of it and says, I am the sun god Jupiter. I am the sun god Jupiter, and I am now a dictator. What in the world is going on?
I have an answer for you there. For a long time, the demons, and a demon is a disembodied spirit that's sentient. In other words, it has understanding, have hidden themselves. God is ripping, if you will, this fabric of time and space that separates the physical world from the spiritual world. And I believe that that statement is coming from an entity, a non-human entity that possesses him. Now, look, you can go to Matt Drudge's front page today, and what is it? Exorcism at an all-time high. People are standing in line because they're dealing with demons. When I first started writing about genetic Armageddon, Alex, and talked about the day would come when machines would not only be built to try and replace and destroy mankind, but they become inhabited with demons. So the demonic, people can deny it all day long until it happens to them. And my inbox fills up with literally dozens of people, some of them Christians, people terrified because of the things they're seeing in the night. Jesus said it this way: if the salt loses its savor, in other words, its ability to be saltiness, then we get trampled under the foot of man. Well, that's what's happened. There's no reason anybody who believes in Jesus Christ or is a Christian, a Bible-believing Christian, should ever apologize or think they have to take a back
seat. And here's the proof. The globalists everywhere will spend billions of dollars to invade countries just to kill Christians. They admit it. They have a hunger to destroy and kill and torture children and innocent people. This is their hunger. This is what drives them universally, and that's the proof. And universally, they are driven away by the Spirit of God, the Spirit of Christ, love, goodness, creativity, honor, strength, and not being a coward.
Well, absolutely, and that's what Jesus said, suffer the little children to come unto me. I wish that were not the case. But when we wouldn't protect the most innocent, now here's why the devil wants their blood. The devil absolutely hates innocence. He hates God's holiness. He hates virtue. He hates the fact that for the reason God created mankind originally in his image and likeness, that we had something that even he didn't have. Yet the Bible teaches that the angels became jealous. And Alex, 99% of your critics and my critics are jealous. Now, if they can fault us on a fact, that's a different story. But the problem is
they're jealous of our freedom.
They're jealous of our freedom. And they're jealous because you know what the bottom line is? And you know I like to overuse that statement. The bottom line is they know it's true in their heart. Because the Bible teaches that God has put...
And they know they're fallen, and they know they're broken. This is Veritas. We'll be back. There is no doubt that mainstream media for decades told folks the Federal Reserve wasn't private. They failed. Now folks know. They tell people that birth defects aren't up when they are. They tell people that cancer isn't up when it is. They tell folks that, again, there isn't massive mutations in fish and wildlife from the very water we're drinking as well. They want to suppress it. Their job is to lie to you. And most people even work for the system. They just go along. They want to grovel. They want to do what they're told with the talking points to get basically up the ladder. But as things start to disintegrate, being part of the system is becoming more and more worthless, more and more anathema, more and more hated. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for spreading the word about the broadcast. They're trying to censor InfoWars. They're demonizing us. They're lying about us. They're so scared because of what we're covering and what we're doing. That's why when you spread the links to Infowars.com, when you share the articles, the videos, when you join us in the meme contest that Paul Watson's over right through next Wednesday, $20,000. That's a lot of money, but these memes are bringing the globalists down. It's about getting the people involved, the people politically involved, the people engaged in information warfare. We are so close, just like Bill Clinton was a rapist contest. Trump has openly said probably swung the election for him. You swung the election. You're fighting back. You're empowering the restoration of the republic. Your hope. They want to drive down our will. They want to demoralize us. They go, oh, nobody wants to shake Trump's hand overseas. All made up. He's unpopular. He's a failure. They're the failures. They're the ones falling apart. Steve Quayle, I want to get more into the geopolitical North Korea and how this could trigger and what would happen when we come back in a moment. But just briefly, what is CNN going to do now that they have the lowest viewers on cable, not just cable news? I mean, reruns of Yogi Berra on Infowars.com, we have articles, are higher. Their arrogance, their idiocy. Do they know what failures they are, or do they hire such evil narcissists that all they care about is being on a stage, on a pedestal around other vampires?
Well, I think it's a vampire narcissism, mutual admiration society. But look, we're watching them self-destruct, Alex. And not only are we watching them self-destruct, but what happens when their food source, the unknowing public, gets smart and no longer listens to them? I think you referred to it. They're going to turn on themselves. They'll use false flags. They'll do everything. And also, at the end of the day, their only last tool is to have some form of an EMP. I'm not even talking about a missile strike or a space-based weapon. I'm talking specifically about a pre-positioned series of weapons that could take us down, and they don't even need to go there.
They've only got to hit, what, 6 points?
Yep, 6 points. And look at all of the databases that have been violated. For the record, there is no safe database. Everything is known. And
but they tell you, get up on a cloud knowing it's going to cause the mass hacking.
Well, absolutely. I think that, societies go crazy en masse, okay? And I think it was Mackey that wrote a book about that. And the herd is always wrong. Guess what? The herd ends up in the slaughterhouse. So we're telling everybody,
the herd runs off the cliff.
Yeah, and then the demons come in the Gadarene demoniac in the New Testament. So here's the thing. It's a spiritual battle. It has physical implications. People can no longer be casual spectators. And I think the obvious reason why it's all coming right now is that God's drawing a line. He's drawing his line in the sand. He said, all you want Satan, go there. All you that want me, go here. And
that's why it's clearer and clearer and clearer. And Hollywood says, we want Satan, we want Christians, we hate you, and let us rape your children. We love the devil. We are legion, we are legion. We have your children. We are unstoppable. We will overthrow God. We will kill you. We love Islam. We will kill you. We will kill you. No, we will defeat you. It is so dangerous, this modern world where they want to make us totally domesticated, where they want to disconnect us from the fields, from the farms, from everything. And then Amazon's Bezos admits he wants a global monopoly over everything, and then he wants to destroy free speech. He wants to destroy America. He's a globalist. He gets $600 million from the CIA to fund the Washington Post to lie about our Americana recovery. And then I've got a chart here I wanted to show Steve Quayle and everybody else that's watching on television. This chart shows how quickly Amazon is eating the retail world. And hey, it's great, it's convenient, but once it becomes oligopoly, it's able to even shut down Walmart. Walmart's imploding because of it. This chart shows how quickly Amazon is eating the retail world, where you can actually go out and have local shops, local businesses, and communicate with a human. It's beyond robots taking over. Now they've bought up Whole Foods and have robots getting ready to take control of that. Here's the chart. Look as retail goes down, Amazon goes up, and they're so monopolistic, even online shopping carts like us can't deal with it. I mean, they can do shipping, for like $1. That's why they say it's free to you, because how they've scaled up. We have to charge $6, $7, say, on a heavier object. People want the lower price, so they destroy themselves, giving it to a guy worse than George Soros. So that's why it's economic warfare. You've got to shop with the mom and pop some. They're always going to have some stuff that you're not going to see. Thrift shops, you name it. You've got to go to farmers markets, at least some. To keep that there, you've got to go to InfoWarsStore.com and a shopping cart that's based here in Texas that actually hires people and that actually gives you good prices. In fact, we sell a lot of stuff that's sold on Amazon lower than they do, but we still can't compete with the shipping because they, again, have scaled up so high that no one can compete, including Walmart. And then that kills competition. Steve Quayle, could you speak to that briefly?
Well, absolutely. I'm calling this whole takeover Frankengreed, okay? Frankenstein was obviously the monster created by parts, but now Frankengreed is taking on a life of its own. It doesn't matter if it's in the computer field, doesn't matter in the service sector. And what Bezos is doing is total, in my opinion, the total control. It's like the old statement, give me a control of a nation's money and I care not who writes its laws. How about this? You'll owe your soul to the company's store. And now if you put it into, let's say everything crashes, Alex, except cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever, and people start making all kinds of money, which they are, and obviously I'm not faulting anybody for that. But if you look beyond the obvious astronomical growth and understand that when everything you have is in a crypto or in the cloud, then your butt is in a real trouble on Earth, because whoever controls, look, power, everybody can have their wallets, and I'm still I'm sorry, but I'm a physical commodity guy.
Exactly, but giving it one centralized global store, that's perfect for the mark of the beast. It shuts down competition. And then you have to depend on it for everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it decides more and more Amazon isn't letting patriots have stores, too. Then it can cut you out of the marketplace.
And they did that on YouTube, remember, with people that were able to monetize their information. And so
they've already lowered our monetization 78%, which we have more views than ever. They're just robbing us now because we're conservative.
And they lie about all of our placements and everything. Look, everything they say is a lie. You know the old joke, how do you know when a major newscast is lying? When they're opening their mouths. How do you know?
And again, Google's been caught everywhere, stealing passwords, stealing data, monopoly, scamming. And of course, they don't pay you what you're supposed to. It's all a giant fraud.
It's all a giant fraud. And, I remember this. I said, I did this 15 years ago on talk radio. I said, what we're going to have is assassination algorithms and the mathematical
That's right. Let's come back and explain that, where they economically squeeze everything out. It's unbelievable. They already have computer programs. Hit one button, then a virus goes out and digitally erases your video algorithm, your voice print algorithm, you name it, and then doesn't even allow you to buy or sell. So you can no longer even communicate through the digital platforms. All right, award-winning documentary filmmaker, best-selling author, Steve Quayle is our guest. And I'm going to open the phones up after he leaves us at the bottom of the hour, just specifically on the ceasefire deal reached by Trump and Putin about an hour and a half ago. This is huge news up on Infowars.com. Big victory for Trump. Big victory for our military, not letting ISIS and al-Qaeda take control of Syria. Obama and the globalists and Hillary started that civil war 6 years ago, destroyed Libya, destroyed Syria, destroyed so many other areas, overthrew our allies in Egypt. This is a big defeat against the globalists. And Trump and Putin have really hit it off. We need to work with Russia to defeat radical Islam. There are just so many exciting things going on. So that's at the bottom of the hour. First-time callers on that subject or other things, 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. We've got some new memes that we've produced that we're going to be airing at the bottom of the hour as well in the whole war against CNN. But I've declared CNN dead. They're just propping it up right now. But even though they know it's dead, it has no viewers, but MSM's turning against it, don't they understand that's the final domino to fall? 800-259-9231. Now, going back to our guest, Steve Quayle. Steve, what else is on your radar economically, geopolitically? I know Ron Paul said Trump, he thinks he's doing a great job with the economy, but too little too late because of all these countervailing global forces, a lot of the big banks wanting to raise interest rates to try to kill the recovery. Again, I want to be positive, and part of having a recovery is being positive, and Trump's doing real things to have real industry, real farming, real heavy machinery. That's part of that, but exuberance with a real economy is good. But I don't think if he doesn't get the tax cuts and the rhinos block him, I think they're the biggest threat. And if we don't get Obamacare repealed, I think this is going to stall by October, where it traditionally stalls. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you, Alex. And the first thing I would say to the president, and obviously you have his ear and he listens, is, Mr. President, you have got to clean out the people that were placed strategically, even hidden within the major departments under your administration.
And Obama admitted that when he was leaving. He said, we're putting in a fifth column.
Absolutely. Now, anybody who's pushing for war with Russia, if that's the same line as Hillary, I don't care, national security advisors, I don't care who they are, generals, then he's got to get rid of them. And here's my recommendation to the President of the United States. Call back the generals that have battlefield experience. Reinstate those who had to leave out of conscience. Bring back the men who will know how to fight. Because, listen, everybody's teaming up against the United States. I want to make a statement. Europe is toast. Europe is done. I salute Poland and the Czech Republic. What wonderful people that put their people's lives first. And if I were President Trump, I'd sit down with Vladimir Putin and President Trump's most trusted advisor, the most trusted advisor, not his son-in-law. And I would sit and I would take my most trusted friend, whether it's Secretary of State Tillerson or somebody that just has a record, you know. And by the way, Flynn was set up, and I think General Flynn is an amazing man. And the thing that scared the wee-wee out of the traitors was the fact that General Flynn knew what had to be done. And they were scared, Alex, of being found out.
He helped orchestrate the deal with Russia to block Obama turning Syria over to al-Qaeda and ISIS. That's why they really hated him.
Absolutely. But also, I think people need to understand the big picture. Years ago, you and I did a couple shows over, I think, 2 or 3 years, where we talked about the Chinese white papers. And if everybody thinks back, there was a missile launch off the coast of Catalina.
That was a threat. They've got satellite killers.
Yep. And so the thing is that we are so behind the 8 ball, in my opinion, outside of using our ultra black, and I will say this, our space-based weapon systems that exist. If anybody doubts that, they don't know the history of weapons development, and that they've got to recognize that it is in America's favor to get along with the Russians. The Russians are amazing people. Now, look, I'm a rabid anti-communist.
But Russia's not communist anymore.
It isn't anymore, but we are. We are undergoing a Russian...
Yeah, we've got Atlantic Monthly and Hollywood saying, get rid of Christians, the sun is set on America, pushing weird anti-white division stuff, just brazen. Imagine if the Russians were saying stuff like that in the old Soviet Union. This is beyond, I mean, this is like more rabid than the Soviets. And then they're the ones pointing at the Russians because they're the globalist threat. They're trying to point at another outside threat to make us rally around Hollywood. I mean, what is wrong with Hollywood? Why are they so turned over to pedophilia? Who's worse, Hollywood or the people that have taken over the Catholic Church?
I would say this, they're one and the same. And when we go all over the world, Alex, my film crews go all over the world, the cover-up and the cover-over always leads back to the Vatican. Now, I am absolutely friends with Catholics. I'm not. There's no anti-Catholic sentiment in my statement. But the Vatican, our DVD, you guys sell it, The Unholy See, covers the exact cover-up. Look, when my film crew was in Sardinia, they were monitored by Vatican helicopters. Literally, you'd think it was a scene out of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and by the grace of God and people praying for their safety. I got guys now half the world away and harm's way to prove that even there in the middle of the jungles, Alex, the control is that deep. So that mystery missile that ABC carried years ago, look, I had guys in the Defense Department, I had missile commanders, I had everybody.
Well, they lied to us and said it wasn't a missile. They said it was a vapor trail from a plane when it was clearly a knockoff of a U.S. sea-launched...
submarine-launched ballistic missile, an SLBM. And, you know, Gary Haven, pilot, 15,000 hours. You know, Gary's never seen a plane, a jet, act like that. Even a fighter on full afterburners. I had guys tell me they did the spectral analysis in real time. In other words, they were able to blast the plume, the fuel plume, and get an instantaneous reading.
Sure, they were hitting it with heat-seeking monitors.
You got it. But not only that, they knew exactly which country it came from. Now,
because they know the signature of the missile.
Yep. And so every missile, the propulsion system, the signature, the telemetry, just like North Korea, who has the most to gain to be lying to us about what North Korea achieved? Because then it goes right back to who provided them the technology.
Let me ask you that question since you raised it. I've got the article right here. Mainstream News, Bill Clinton paved the way for nuclear Korea, gave them the reactors that could make the fissile material, helped China get their long-range ICBM technology. Just in the 90s, most of their missiles blew up. So now China's clearly given that to them. Why?
Well, because at heart, he's a globalist. He's obviously a Sololinskyite. And all people have to do to question, if they're questioning you on that
statement. They love death. They love destruction. They love the recklessness, the evil of giving a pure evil regime nuclear weapons. That is a great satanic move to do. It's a bad, horrible thing, so they do it.
Right. And Loral Satellite Corporation, and this was told to me by a 4-star active duty.
And Hughes. It came out, Loral and Hughes both were allowed to do it. Go ahead.
Yep. But listen, Alex, I asked the general this specific question. I said, General N, do they have everything? And he said, Steve, they have everything. And I said, even ultra black? He said, there's some they don't have, but that's what they're working on stealing the most. Now, again, you and I carried the story, didn't finish it. The white papers. What most people in the West don't understand is that the Chinese are on record as saying, if for their manifest destiny, if 300 million Americans die...
Yeah, that goes back to the 60s and 70s. They say...
You got it. And so,
they're willing to kill all of us, even if we kill half of them. They say they have an overpopulation problem.
Absolutely. So the idea of killing innocent people in Korea, we're talking about an initiation of global nuclear war. I think what President Trump just did, and by the way, Alex, if you can get a Lavrov on, he speaks really good English. In my opinion, okay, he's one of the smartest men in the world who has the most common sense.
And he's been trying to make a deal with the United States against China and against radical Islam, which is the normal, smart move to make.
Right. And can you get him on? Because, again, I would say this, that they
don't want to, people like that don't want to create a huge controversy. One time, I've been invited to go over and Russia at RT things, and I've been invited to, they said I could probably interview Putin if I wanted to, but it'd be about hunting and fishing. That was a few years ago, and I just the optics of me going over to Russia, because, you know, I mean, it's not that I'm afraid of it, but they'll say I'm over there getting my orders or whatever. But I'm tempted to go just because, I'm tempted to go just because they keep saying it. But you know, we should try to get somebody like Lavrov on. The way I could do it is I could go to a press conference and ask him questions. I know for a fact I can do that right now.
I think that even beyond that, I think that you should make an outreach. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not trying to tell Alex Jones what to do, but I have followed Russian, and I mean this, the Russian thoughts. And I've dealt with some amazing Russian people. At one point, they were our enemies. At this point, we have to see them as if Putin is standing up for the people of Russia and telling the American citizens, don't give up your guns, then he's talking about freedom.
And they're becoming Christian. They're paying people to get married and have kids.
Absolutely.
They're going the opposite. And I've watched some of their stuff, in Russian translated to English, where they're teaching about they poison the vaccines, it's world government. I mean, it's basically, the truth is, I don't want to brag, but our whole liberty movement, basically, the Russians believe it because they lived under the Soviet system. They know it's true. Much of what we've covered, the Russians have actually picked up, and vice versa.
Absolutely. And by the way, I think RT and RU are both sending film crews into Bozeman. They want to interview myself and Timothy Alberino. They want to interview us on the cover-up of ancient civilizations and why that all these people that are into Satanism and everything worship the deities and the gods. Getting back to Macron, if that doesn't scare the full bladder and the full bowel,
saying he's a god,
saying he's God, and I want to put this into perspective.
Well, stay there. Let's come back and talk about that. Final segment with Steve Quayle, then your phone calls. I'll play some of the Trump-Putin interaction that was public as well. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. Spread that link. It seems like yesterday, but it was long ago. I first had Steve Quayle on now, 22 years ago. That's right, I was looking at the calendar last night, and I got on air in April of 1995. So how many years ago? 21, 22 years ago? Yeah, that's 22 years ago. And one of my first guests was Steve Quayle. And I thought, this guy is just wild. And about 90% of it's come true. Steve Quayle, we're carrying, all 4 of his new films. We've got The Holy See that really exposes how the Satanists have taken over the Vatican. We're not anti-Catholic. It's just a fact. The Unholy See, available at InfoWarsStore.com. or by calling 888-253-3139. And by the way, it's free shipping, store-wide on everything. We're doing that for the month of July, InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. Certainly thought-provoking information. Now, we were getting into Macron before I went to break and other issues. If you just joined us, he did say on Wednesday that he is the God Emperor, Jupiter, and did declare emergency powers, basically martial law, over France. And he just walks around totally crazed like he's God. He is a total mental patient. I've had this happen to a few people I've known in my life where they just decide they're just invincible. It's like a form of make-believe. It's possession. I don't know what you call it. The more power I get, the more humble I get. I don't understand people that petty folks get a little bit of power, like a McDonald's manager or something. This guy is just a nobody, a total puppet. He comes into the line today, comes down from where he's at to get beside Trump so that, he can look all powerful. Again, what is the disease in people's minds like this from your research, Steve Quayle?
Well, I think the picture you're showing right now, look at him biting his lip, Alex. Watch Obama when he's lying. Watch Paul Ryan when he's lying. I believe that's a signature of their conditioning, i.e., or their cloning. You know how many people won't accept that? Now, look at his eyes. The Bible says his eyes are the windows to his soul. Look at the lip furled. I don't know how to describe his lips, but watch for that, ladies and gentlemen. Alex, you said it. You said it. Even were mocked by the entity in the White House. Some people refer to him as the former president. I refer to him as the entity. So while we're watching this again, let me share a word. Outpicturing. You're going to see, ladies and gentlemen, not erratic behavior, but that which possesses these men, these women. You're going to see them showing their true nature. And God is stripping off the veneer. He is absolutely revealing to let people
by giving them rope, letting them think they're invincible, their mental illness is coming out. What was the term you used earlier? You got caught up by break about assassination algorithms.
Assassination algorithms. The Illuminists and globalists control all the world's data banks. They control every single, quote, secure server in the world. They have advanced mathematics. Now, here's the word that people won't recognize until they begin to see it. But they have a supernatural oversight. Alex, the basic point I'm at in my life now, and, you guys are carrying the book Xenogenesis. I believe that's the most important book that I have written to tell people what lies ahead. And again, the latest documentary, which you carry, is the Holocaust of Giants. What I'm saying to you, the giants were the offspring of the fallen angels in antiquity and history, and their fathers, the fallen angels, I believe that's who the unseen
Well, certainly the Bible says that, but other folks say that those are metaphors. I don't even get into all that stuff, but I know the elites are obsessed with it, and now Macron is saying he's God, and now we have drones that are out there killing people autonomously by algorithm. That is so dangerous. That's directly out of Skynet, which we know is art imitating life, because we know under Space Command from the 1970s, the code words for it is Skynet.
Absolutely. And to get people to understand the Terminator series, which
they admit the CIA was involved in.
Absolutely. Well, let me share this. The CIA is involved in every single sci-fi. Gene Roddenberry was a CIA asset, okay? Obviously, people don't recognize...
So why are so many folks formerly with the CIA, some of which I talked to that know you from out in Colorado, coming out with all this info now? Are they breaking with the program? Or is this part of a larger existential of the hierarchy?
No, I think they're breaking with the program because, Alex, they're seeing the reality of hell. They're seeing it in, and I call Hollywood, Hellywood. They bewitched the world, Hollywood, the witches' wands. The witches are cursing Trump. That's why Christians have got to be praying for his safety, his family's safety. And by the way, when you and I were on a show together years ago, when they were going to launch the phony Ebola thing, if you remember that show, I said, shot in the arm, shot in the head, either way you end up dead. So we have got, and this thing, the attack on white Christian America, what is that? Right out of the mouthpiece of
Satan. And then they say, we're racist to say that. They're the ones saying white people, get Christians. This is insane. Thank you, Steve Quayle. Very powerful. Your film's available. InfoWarsStore.com. Very, very thought-provoking. You're dead on from my research geopolitically. Thank you so much. I questioned some of the other stuff, but it's all interesting. And hey, it's free speech in America. Thank you so much. Always intriguing, Steve Quayle. Kind of like that classical music. My dad's dad was a cool guy, and he was a guy from Texas, and but he still listened to classical music. And so I remember him coming to get me out of bed at 4 a.m. to get ready and go out and drive around and mess with the cows and stuff. And he'd be in there drinking his coffee, listening to classical music, and then we'd be riding along with a little transistor radio. It was like a red radio. It was sold. It was like pink, like something from the 50s. He'd have this playing with music out of Dallas, 100-something miles away, and just cool driving around through the woods and looking at the cows and checking the fences and feeding the cows while classical music played. Just popped in my head, listen to that piece of music. Memory's so good sometimes. I think I even listened to this song with him. I'm not enough of a buff on classical to know who that is. Is that Night on Bald Mountain, I think? Is that Night on Bald Mountain? It is Night on Bald Mountain. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are live broadcasting worldwide. Thank you for joining us. Here's the bottom line. They are scared of us creating our own economies. And I was always somebody who was pro-free market, but as a Christian, I could see how the left manipulated people because I was almost ashamed to try to make a bunch of money for myself. I mean, after I had a good car working and a decent house, I didn't want more. In fact, more is kind of a hassle. But then they tried to shut me down about 11 years ago, came after me, said I was just trying to make money all over the news. And I said, you know what? I'm going to show you make money. I'm going to show you what we're going to do. Well, we've gotten to a level now where we go to the next level. There's not much higher to go in the fight against these people. And I'm not doing it for my name. I'm not doing it for my ego. I'm doing it to survive for myself, my family, and your family. Because believe me, if they can destroy us, they're going to bring the whole thing down. Our destinies are now intertwined right now. And we've allowed ourselves to be born into this high-tech society. We've been eased into it. But now we're waking up to the fact it's a trap. Not that technology's bad, I'm on your calls in a moment, but that the globalists have designed it and twisted it with Trojan horses and systems of oppression. And so we now, with our choices and our dollars and our movements and our actions, bend it back towards the light and back towards good intention, goodwill, not bad will. Google throws party in D.C. for digital Democrats, Jerome Corsi, Infowars.com. And what did Schmidt just announce last week? I saw the headline, 3 million to gun control groups. I mean, every day or two, it's 10 million here, 3 million there, 5 million there. And that's just from Schmidt. Not the top 300 or so Googleers who are almost all globalist social engineers with In-Q-Tel, the CIA, 17 years ago, that literally founded it with NSA software. To not be a search engine, but to be a mass tracking system of you and your family. Google is a breakaway civilization, and he just wants your guns because he's worried that there might be a rebellion against the technocratic takeover once you realize it's forced inoculations for all. It's the orderly control of the phase-out of 90% of the population. So just remember that. That's why I talked about Bezos and how something like 80% of the retail sales have been killed by Amazon. That's killing diversity, it's killing choice. And then you're going to see, just like with Walmart, once they've killed all the jobs for 50 miles around, they're going to jack the prices up. That's why it's imperative to support independent shopping carts. Look, I know how easy Amazon is, and I'd sit there every few days and see a couple of Amazon packages for food or medicine or what. I'm just saying, hey, everybody stop being lazy. I want you to go out to mom and pop shops, and I don't care if it's a couple dollars more because it's scaled up through Amazon. Buy it there. Told the wife that, told the nanny that helps out. Myself that. I'm just like, and I'll even support, bigger companies or whatever, but I now look at what their politics are. And if they're on the board of gun control groups, or they're on the board of the Federal Reserve, like the, Chobani owner or whatever, I'm not doing business with them because they're monopolistic. They're coming after our freedoms. We're done. And it doesn't mean I'm perfect. But now, because of the internet being so accessible, we can use it against them. I go and I check everything I buy, everything I do. I was in a store the other day. My son had outgrown his exercise clothes, and he wanted some Patagonia clothes, which are nice jackets, nice camping stuff. And I went, no, the owner of that is sworn to communism, sworn to bringing down America, an SJW, anti-police. Not the police are perfect, but I'm not George Soros. Let's overthrow him so he can run things. No, thank you. And I said, sorry. In fact, I said, son, I'm glad you mentioned that. I said, I actually have a Patagonia jacket. When I got home, I threw it in the trash, and I took a butcher knife and I stabbed a big hole in it so nobody could take it out of the trash and wear it, because wearing that is a billboard for evil. We've got a new shirt, and that is the CNN is fake news. Black and white. On the right-hand arm, Infowars.com. On the back, Infowars is real news. It's nice, soft fabric. It's $19.95. The shirt's so nice, it costs us like $10 a piece. On the bigger ones, even more. I mean, it's real soft fabric, really nice. This is the shirt I wear at home. Now, I also have another group of shirts I took home. That's what I wear at home and what I wear when I work out, and that is, my free speech doesn't end when you're offended. Infowars.com on the back, Infowars.com on the right chest, and on the right shoulder, George Washington on a black shield with olive branches around him, symbolizing victory. And I believe that is the best shirt, quite frankly. And it's not even one of our best sellers. Well, it is now that I'm plugging it. I mean, that's a shirt I've been wearing for years. I'm like, why haven't I done an ad for this? So those shirts are available. But it's about getting the word out. It's about meeting like-minded people. And it's also about, normally we can't do free shipping. We lose a lot of money when we do it. But folks like it so much, I'm doing it this month. That's where we can't compete. I mean, we're about to start selling organic colloidal silver mouthwash. Well, I mean, it's going to cost us, at the cheapest shipping place we can find, if it's priority mail, $7 a deal. I know for a fact Amazon will give you free because they're such a massive conglomerate, they've scaled up where you can't compete with it. So this stuff comes in, and we're start selling it next week. It actually came in, and I'm in there with the folks who are like, Alex, you can't offer free shipping on this. You want to do, all week, till the end of the month. We just can't do it on this item, or we'll lose money. This mouthwash is so good, it's costing us $10. It's concentrate, colloidal silver, fluoride-free, all of it. It goes with super blue. We've already got one in. That's the organic mouthwash from Emmerich's, 10-to-1 concentrate. It's great. The new one has colloidal silver coming in. It's a bigger bottle. And it just, that's how good our deals are, is that if I give you free shipping on the new mouthwash coming in, we will lose money. That's how good these deals are. DNA Force is back in, 20% off. Everything else is 30 to 40% off. InfoWarsStore.com. But it takes volume of purchase to fund it. And I am looking to not take any profit this year so that I can personally get, and we're trying. Oh, by the way, let me make this announcement now that I'm going to your calls. We need female reporters. Leanne still works here, but her grandmother had to have emergency brain surgery. She loves her. She's been there taking care of her. She's going to be back in the fall, but she's going to be back and forth between here and her grandmother's in Florida. And we've got Millie Weaver does a great job. I just like female reporters. They've got a great perspective. Send it in at jobs@infowars.com. If you've worked at mainstream news or alternative news, or you're a writer, you don't have to look like Marilyn Monroe either. We're not like Fox News. If you got the smarts and the looks too on top of it, whatever. We just want female reporters both in the field, auxiliary reporters, part-time reporters. But, send in your reel. Show us what you've done. Never done it before? Go out and shoot a report. Show us what you can do. We want male reporters as well. And we're trying to hire like 10 more people and some managers who can also then do contests and go through all the resumes. I mean, we've got to work 18 hours a day just to hire new people. I need to get just one person that schedules travel, so it's not Rob Dew, the news director, doing it. We're kind of at that point of growth where we got to get bigger to get more done. We need the financial support, and it makes it a lot easier. So I'm not sitting here haggling with folks to move them and their families here to be at the InfoWars News Center in Texas, trying to get folks to leave Atlanta or New York or L.A. or wherever and to come here. It's not as hard now because the exodus out of New York and L.A. and Florida. I'm not bashing Florida, but it's happening. The point is, we're about to really grow. I'm going to spend everything extra we've got this year because of the critical time we're in. But please, commit. Sign up for auto ships so you don't forget to support us each month to get the DNA Force. Even stuff that sells out doesn't when you do that because we hold enough back for your auto ship. Or the X2, or the Great Brain Nootropic Brain Force, 30% off, 20% more each bottle. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. Okay. We're going to go to Zach, Darren, Carlos, Kristen, Jim, and others. And I've got a bunch of other news I haven't hit yet. Let me hit this one, and then I'll go to your calls. Lavrov says Trump pushed Putin on election hacking. The Russian foreign minister played down the issue, but the fact that Putin regime mentioned it is significant. Following the meeting between President Trump and Putin, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov mentioned the press conference that Trump brought up Russia interference in 2016 U.S. presidential election. Lavrov played down the significance of the segment. Quote, President Trump said in the U.S. there are still some circles who are talking about the Russian alleged intrusion and Russian alleged attempt to influence the U.S. elections, Lavrov said. According to Secretary of State Tillerson, it was the first topic that the president raised in the meeting. Okay, let's go to your phone calls. Let me see. Zach, let's talk about the ceasefire. So does Darren, so does Carlos, so does Kristen. Jim wants to talk about human chimeras, which again, why do I keep hammering human chimeras? Because they've had them for 30 plus years. It's in the medical literature, and they're not showing the public, and they've got rights, and it's dangerous. And I just love how, as it all comes out, though, I'm still the discredited one with my audience for us forcing it out, you forcing it out, getting made fun of at the dinner table. Now it's in the news, and we're kookier than ever. It's like if some old guy said, son, you won't go over and fish at the other corner of that island right there at that point where the river comes out. That's where you'll catch the biggest fish. You go over there, you suddenly catch 10 times the fish. You see the old guy, and you say, man, let me buy you a beer. Let me buy you a breakfast taco or whatever there is at the little shack down the beach. Instead of be like, you old man, and just punch him right in the nose. How dare you send me where I caught my limit? But it doesn't matter. We just keep doing the right thing. But see, a lot of the sheeple doesn't want to be proven wrong. They don't want to be shown the light. You're trying to help them. They think you're showing off because they're so self-centered. They think somebody taking time out to talk to them is showing off. No, if you live in the same world as me and you're dumbed down and you're wrong and you're being conned and you're being injected every year with cancer virus-filled flu shots and I've got all the literature, it doesn't matter If talk show hosts make fun of me and say Jones is insane and says much of polio came from polio, it was in the newspapers in the 50s that a lot of people got polio from the vaccine. It was in the newspapers in the 70s and 80s that they banned it, the liquid polio vaccine, because it was live and was actually giving people polio. That's a medical fact that much of the global new paralyzation you see is caused by polio vaccines. It doesn't mean that polio virus didn't exist. It doesn't mean, the point is there's been secret experimentation and much of the disease has been spread. Vaccines didn't get rid of much of the disease. Running water and hygiene did in the 20s and 30s. The graphs are all from Australia to Europe to the US. Let me show TV viewers, then I'm going to your calls. They're like this. Here's disease up here in 1900 in the Western world. It's the same graph all over the world. You can pull these up. Disease graphs in industrial world. 1900, it's up here. Indoor water, sanitation, disinfection, more sophisticated detergents, clothes washing. It goes just like this. And then in the 1940s, vaccines become massively ubiquitous, and it goes like this. That's the graph right there. Depending on the area of the world. You know, some of them vary. They do different stuff, but that's the graph. Because it's scientific. It's deliberate. Infant mortality went like this, is now bouncing back up. I mean, you know, I'm just so sick of all these pseudo-intellectuals because I don't talk in a British accent. I love the Brits. Or I don't talk in a California accent and I'm not smart. I have done the research. I know what I'm talking about. Sorry. I'm ranting. Let's go to, not talking to the general audience, but those that are still in denial. Let's go to Kristen in the great state of Tennessee. The, what is that, the volunteer state. Go ahead, Kristen.
Hello, Alex.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, you remember me? The one that talked about the Federal Reserve and my dad, chairman of the Singapore Stock Exchange?
I don't remember your call exactly, but go ahead, ma'am. Sorry.
Yeah, we got 79,000 views.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, so fill me in.
Interest rates hikes. Hello?
Yeah, I don't really remember all that, but go ahead and speak on air with us.
Anyway, so basically I wanted to comment about what the man was saying earlier. Yes, the Vatican has a holding company, which is a globalist. The globalists have their holding company, which is basically the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve has their hitman, which is basically the IRS. The Federal Reserve has raised the interest rates already twice, and it's going to raise the interest rates on Trump one more time at the end of the year, and another 3 interest rates planned for next year. So if the economy doesn't go down, it's going to be a miracle. And I do speak Chinese, and I did apply for your job at yourjobs.com. So
okay, good. Well, we're trying to plow through all those, so God bless you. But I remember your call now because you mentioned the speaking Chinese. Before, so it was like 6 months ago or so. You're absolutely right that the Vatican is its own city, its own taxes, its own regulations, and makes itself exempt from everybody else above the law. Same thing with the City of London, within London, that financial center. Not the whole London, just the small city of London. Within it is its own systems. The UN is modeled after that, set up by the Rockefellers as a holding company. So you have 3 or 4 of these competing mega states that are above the law exempt. Israel has kind of set up its own little system like that. They're what they call city-states. And the globalists admit, once they destroy the nation-state, there won't be global kumbaya. They're going to go to only city-states. That's why people like Peter Thiel has said, maybe they'll have floating islands that are their own libertarian city-states. So, yes, that is the de-evolution they're planning, is back to city-states. And whether you're good or bad, that's the fact. That's what Thiel talked about. Thiel talked about the tide going out on globalism. Anything else, Kristen?
Yeah, because the Federal Reserve, basically, they print all the funds for a lot of countries, and the countries that are not having the Federal Reserve print their funds were at war, like Libya. So basically, the Federal Reserve has a lot of power. So
yes, and it's forcing everyone onto the digital system, and then onto digital Amazon and digital Google, getting you on their company store plantation, or more like a reservation. And then you can be given the poison blankets, you can be given the Prozac, the fire water, and be dealt with properly until they put you in the grave. They'll be right back with more calls. Great points, Kristen. We've got a bunch of new memes that our listeners have put forward, exposing the globalists, exposing CNN. We've gotten over 2,000 of them sent to us in the last 48 hours since I announced the new $20,000 contest that Paul Watson is going to judge. He's in the emails as well. We're all going to be posting the better ones. But part of the contest is you must post it to social media yourself. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Okay? Because that's part. We want to link to your meme and give it a ton of traffic. So if you send us any of these 2,400 or whatever it is, be sure and post those publicly. We've got some new compilations of them posted to Infowars.com right now. And again, none of us wish real violence against CNN. They're the ones that have their listeners out shooting people. We're just doing this as fun from movies and mean all of this in the information war as a joke. We win as long as nobody's violent against these people. Now, right now, while we're taking calls, we'll be playing in the background for TV viewers some of the new memes. Let's talk to Zach in Florida about the ceasefire that Putin and Trump struck about 2 hours and 15 minutes ago. A big win for the people of Syria and for peace. A big win for Putin and Trump. Go ahead, Zach.
Yes, Alex, it's great to be on again, and great show so far. I just wanted to kind of talk about the significance and importance of July 7th, 2017. What Donald Trump has just pulled off with this ceasefire is one of the most important things in our recent history. I mean, he literally met with Putin, stopped all this kinetic momentum, double-crossed the globalist, and is coming to he's laying the groundwork for the end of Syria and ISIS as we know it. Where's his Nobel Peace Prize? Where is his? The media and the fake news wants to distract you with moral judgment.
They won't even report on the stock market up. They won't even report on the success of new jobs.
Absolutely. I mean, they want to distract you with moral judgments of the man. But think about the restraint that was shown when the Russian plane was knocked down, them meeting face-to-face, man-to-man, and getting this done behind closed doors. Trump gave Putin Syria, and Putin will give Trump North Korea. This is a major diplomatic win for the U.S., and everyone knows it. Who knows what they're looking at? Major.
Well, exactly, and now we see China and North Korea, China and Russia saying you better stop at North Korea. So I guess that is beginning to greenlight Trump to strike North Korea. I just wonder if we can take out all their systems before they destroy South Korea.
Absolutely can, but the only way that's going to be possible is a purging of the deep state, because what you see Trump doing right now is brilliant as a deal maker goes. He's utilizing these people who still have some ties, like Nikki Haley. Even I question some of Tillerson's connections, but he's using them in capacities that we could, benefit from diplomatically. But then when they're done and they're compromised, he's going to move on. But what he's doing and the people he has in positions that some people kind of question, I think it's brilliant. I think it's calculated. It's obvious.
He's using that, as a back channel to spy on the globalists?
100%. He's using them for what they're worth, letting them get out scotch-free, and then when he's done with them, he's moving on to the next. And from a geopolitical timeline perspective, this is obvious. I mean, they can morally judge him, but what he's done diplomatically, the metric and standard that Barack Obama was judged for gaining his Nobel Peace Prize, if that was used for Donald Trump, he
was given it for doing nothing and then launched a bunch of new wars for radical Islam.
Trump is fighting not only the actual enemy, but he's fighting people within his own country and his own government. What's going on behind the scenes will go down in history.
And again, it's not that he's some angel. He just wants prosperity and common sense with a pragmatic approach that is not a globalist approach to artificially create tension so we have a world of crisis.
Presidential. He just doesn't go out and a tirade in the first 100 days, first couple 5 months, 6 months. He meets the Chinese premier, sees their stance, gives them some time, lets them prove themselves. They don't. They uptrade. He puts out a strategic tweet earlier in the week saying, look what China's done after the North Korea missile launch. Then right on time, he meets with Vladimir Putin, and it's done. That's
right. He's got the different paths already lined out with strategic long-term analysis and thinking, but changing as the situation changes. Great point, Zach. Darren, Rod, Carlos, Jim, your call straight ahead. And we got a special guest coming up. Well, the one, the only, Mike Cernovich, always with amazing information and cutting analysis, is going to be hosting in T-minus about 7 minutes. So get ready for Mike Cernovich. Please tell people to tune in. Please spread the streams, whether you're listening to us on local radio or listening to us, shortwave or on the internet. Whatever you do, keep spreading the word. You are the human potential against their AI system, using their AI against them. When you're conscious, you direct the AI, not the AI you. We use the machines, not the other way around. We do the hanging. Darren in Tennessee, another caller from the great state of Tennessee. Hey, buddy.
Nice job you're doing for all of us.
Thank you.
Alex, I got 3 brief points. The first one, I learned yesterday. My boy's going to Afghanistan. He's in the 82nd Airborne. And there's a lot of things that the military is charging soldiers nowadays that used to be free, like meals, $300 a month, and then a lot of times they don't get to eat it. A lot of expenses they had to pay for things they need going to Afghanistan at the last minute. But I learned yesterday that when they go there, there's no phone service. But to get the meager third world level Wi-Fi they have there to be able to speak at home, they're paying $50 a month at Bragg, and they split it up amongst themselves to make it cheaper. It's going to be nearly $100 a man there, and they have it set up so that you can't share it between soldiers. Only one person can pay. It's nearly, like I said, nearly $100 a head.
Yeah, Trump needs to know about that. That's clearly a way, like the company store we were talking about, to rip off soldiers.
I looked up last night. Hughes is the one that has this contract.
Who does?
And they're using Hughes.
Oh, Hughes Electronics. Okay.
Hughes, yeah, I have it right here. And I tried to call him.
I mean, you know Hughes has been the CIA since the 50s.
Well, listen to this, Alex. They're also subcontracting with this little company outside of Detroit. They call it Abcostat. And there's a gentleman named Saad Hajir that's the president of this company. It's only got 12 people, including himself. They make $2.5 million a year. This guy is also, he went to the University of Bahrain, College of Engineering.
Of course.
He's a communications man that speaks. He's also involved now with a little college outside of Detroit, mostly Arabic kids. And
yeah, I mean, when I say Muslims are taking over Hollywood, that's in the news that Saudi Arabia is buying it up, and that the Chinese are as well. And that everywhere I turn around at the Federal Reserve or in school lunch programs, it's rich Muslims getting government contracts. And they ought to be citizens if they're going to get it. I mean, if somebody's a U.S. citizen and a Muslim, fine, let them have a contract. I'm a free market guy, but not when they just come here to basically take over. That's the kind of thing you ought to write up in an article and post to the internet so more people learn about it. Very interesting.
Okay, my second point, now that you mentioned it, speaking of the IRS, you know, that was a great job, Dr. Jerome Corsi, you know, putting that out, how they stole the money from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, you know, and got away with it. And now I'm a retired firefighter on disability. I served 16 and a half years in the city outside of Fort Lauderdale. And one of the things when we did our disability, we took a huge cut and, you know, our benefit, which we paid into. The IRS is now offsetting our meager raises that we get, our cost of living increase. That's been, you know, established in case law that that's not garnishable, that's not deductible, that's not taxable. However, the IRS has begun every single year that I get, and it doesn't happen. Obama cut that out several years where there was no cost of living increase. But every time I get one now, they take the entire amount. They subsidize themselves with our cost of living increase. That's another story that I think needs to
I know,
out.
brother, and people should all be conscious of that and aware of that. Everywhere you are, don't be complainers. Just demand free market. Hey, I demand competition. If what you're getting is at the lowest price and you're not allowed to have competition, it's a scam. If it's the lowest price and works good, you know somebody did a good job. And then if you're in a government job, how are you going to complain? But if it isn't a good deal, you demand quality. That's how we drain the swamp. All right, we'll be back. I'm going to introduce Mike Cernovich straight ahead. Stay with us. Well, Mike Cernovich has got a powerful meme factory going with his small, intrepid team that I've seen all over the news, having a great effect. The image of the plug being pulled on CNN. I love the one where Trump's eyes flash white and the Nazi symbol /CNN blows up. But we're not wishing any real violence here. This is metaphorical of, you know, taking down a condemned building. I don't just say this for effect. You look at their ratings. You look at how their own brethren in fake news, Washington Post, others, are turning on them. CNN, I think you can say 7717 is the day we can say for a fact, dead on arrival, CNN has given up the ghost. CNN is no longer with us. CNN is dead. Now, it's like Weekend at Bernie's, Weekend at Zucker's, at Zucky's. They're still going to prop it up, and then the guts are going to blow it up and then spill out. There's going to be maggots pouring out the ears, and, you know, crows are going to pull eyeballs out, and it's going to smell really bad. And that's pretty much, we kind of found out they've been dead for a while. Now it's like, whoa, it's like a bloated body, you know, been at the bottom of the ocean for a week, and it kind of comes up, and then, it's disgusting. And I don't mean to use gross analogies, but, I mean, they've already got fifth stringers on there. I love Laura Loomer tweeted out, maybe go to her tweet with one of the CNN hosts. The guy looks like Humpty Dumpty and said, I don't even know this is a real baby you're supposedly holding to show how you're human. It's probably fake. It probably is. I mean, you can't believe anything out of known liars. That's why they said the sky was blue. We'd have to question it. They said babies were being thrown out of incubators again in Iraq. They've been caught lying once. I'd say, well, maybe it isn't true. If it turns out it is true, I'm not against the families that lost their babies. Known liars reported it. If it turns out to be true, we'll say it's sad. If it isn't, But again, the babies were not thrown out of incubators. So that's how all this works. They're known liars we have to question. So taking over is Mike Cernovich, and author, researcher. We'll put his websites up on screen for TV viewers. Mike, do you agree with me, or maybe it was a few months ago, but we kind of found the body in the woods now, that CNN can be declared dead at this point?
Well, I sent in some great ratings information to your wonderful production team. Let's compare Paul Joseph Watson's YouTube videos to the top-rated shows on CNN side by side. We'll just let the numbers do the talk. CNN would kill to get the audience that Paul Joseph Watson has for every video. PJW does, Paul the Great does. He is by far bigger than anybody. So Jeff Giese put up a tweet which was really good, and I sent out that they had it. You can compare on the one side CNN's ratings, 700,000 people watch them, and then Paul Joseph Watson, 3, 4, 5 million people watch his videos.
We should really do this professionally with the graphics and everything. I've meant to do this, but we kind of don't want to brag. You don't want to brag, but we should show, like we did. Megyn Kelly had 3.3 million viewers. Now it's even less the week after. And then you had videos over 11 million just talking about it, 2 or 3 of them. We had even more than that. All together, not even counting the radio show and everything else, something like 20-something million views of us talking about her. No wonder she got destroyed. No one wants to tune in. She just advertised herself as a globalist, not even as a fake Fox News person. So, of course, they're saying she's going to be basically removed soon. It's not that we're that good, they're that bad. The average Watson video, if you combine Facebook and YouTube, has about 3 million views. Well, there aren't even shows on CNN with 3 million views. That's what I mean. But despite that, Don Lemon and people think they're powerful, and now reruns of Yogi Bear, that's up on Infowars.com, with the Nielsen ratings, are beating CNN. This despite the fact it's force-fed, low on the cable dial, force-fed in hospitals and in waiting rooms and in government offices and in airports. As you've said, it's time to remove this detritus from the airports.
Yeah, and especially from the schools, actually. We broke the story, I think, last week. I have to write it up. I've been so busy. There's so much going on. But I heard from parents across the country that their children in grade school, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, they're forced to watch 20 minutes a day. They can't do homework during it. They have to watch it. So this is a really big story that we need to build up and develop.
All right, well, I want to get out of here because I'm going to talk over you if I don't. But I love having you on the show. We're getting close to launching your transmission, but just so much happening. I'm really worried, though. We're getting overconfident, myself included. They're going to strike back. I'm worried about them launching a false flag on themselves like you and Laura and others are. They keep saying we're trying to call for violence, even though all our memes are clearly jokes. So what do you think they're going to do? Because they try to say nobody wants to shake Trump's hand. That's all made up. They just keep trying to say, like, we're not the cool kids, when everybody knows they're the most uncool kids in the world. 99%. I haven't seen memes that are pro-CNN. I haven't seen support for CNN other than weird bot echo chamber weirdos, many of which aren't even real people on Twitter and Facebook, that just keep trying to demoralize us, saying, you're losing, you're a joke, you're a failure. It's like Tokyo Rose. We've already dropped little boy and fat man on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We've just killed 10 million Japanese. We don't want to do it. They're still broadcasting that they beat us and that the Japanese have entered the Capitol in D.C. and killed President Truman. They're announcing they've taken D.C. when we're dropping A-bombs on their heads.
Yeah, the same thing is true of during the election. Nobody was doing memes for Hillary. Nobody's doing memes for CNN. They don't have any organic, natural support from the people of any age. That's why they have to indoctrinate people. So in terms of the false flag, actually, Foreign Policy, which is basically owned by the Council of Foreign Relations, they're doing a hit job on me. They're actually planning it now. And I'll show the DMs once the hit article appears. So I've got intelligence that the Council on Foreign Relations are really angry at the national security reporting I've been doing about McMaster's. So they've sent a journalist from Foreign Policy after me to write about me and cry about me and use anonymous sources to make stuff up. So there's already a false flag going to come on me, a false flag hit article from Foreign Policy, which is the mouthpiece of the Council on Foreign Relations.
They got real upset just a few weeks ago when you were pointing stuff out because they hate it that we're pointing out they're burrowed into the White House and we're going to remove these ticks.
Yeah, and that's exactly what is going on. They go, well, I'm hearing from sources that they don't like your article. So I asked this person, a journalist, and I go, why are you working as their PR agents? Why don't you tell your sources to come to me? If they got a problem with me, come talk to me, get in my face. But that's not how they work. So all these people in the media, oh, we're journalists and respecting the truth and everything. They're nothing.
And it acts like it scares us when they go, you know, big people don't like what you're doing. Oh, really? You mean I'm in a big boy game? Oh, I'm so scared. Oh.
Yeah, and they haven't figured it out yet. I want a hit job.
We're coming after them. Yeah. We want the enemy to open up on us politically because they're the enemy. We want everyone to know the enemy hates us. It's a celebration.
Exactly. But they don't get it, and that is why they keep losing us. Another hit job. They do a hit job.
In fact, I'm jealous. Wow. I want more hit jobs. I'm not just saying this to act. I want more. I want more.
Yeah, it gets boring. It gets boring when I wake up.
All you got's Megyn Kelly. All you got's that idiot at CNN who lost his job too. Bring me more.
Yeah, Reza, Megyn Kelly, Kathy Griffin, and CNN threatening to dox somebody. So what we're doing now, we are forced, and this is where you said you and I have to be careful. You're right. We have the enemy making a lot of mistakes because they're all stressed out. They're nowhere scrutinizing.
Well, they're a bunch of thugs. They had to hire cowards and sellouts to begin with who tend to be mentally ill narcissists. So they're so delusional that they think they're always winning even when they're losing, so they keep doubling down.
Exactly. So what we have to do is we have to keep hitting them hard, but we definitely have to be careful. We have to avoid that we don't get roofied by deep state. You know, they'll put stuff in our drinks if we're not careful.
Sex operatives.
Yeah, you got to be real careful. So whenever I'm out now, I'll never go more than like in half an hour without texting or tweeting somebody. That way, if, you know, that's how you can tell that, you know, they're not able to kidnap me or roofing me or get me while I'm hiking the trail or something like that. We have to be very, very vigilant.
I'm telling you, it's a whole new ball game, my friend. Where do you expect them to go from here, though?
Well, they're trying to get us banned from social media. So, for example, that Linda Sarsour did a video where she said, I support jihad and we must wage a jihad against Trump. So all I did was took that video and added subtitles and captions, and they're trying to get me banned from social media because I'm inciting harassment. Well, wait, how am I inciting harassment?
Yeah, she gets hundreds of millions of Soros money to put women in hijabs and be in USA Today saying, wear your hijab for feminism. She's saying, I am wanting jihad against the Trumpy. And we're like, hey, this is BS. And then you're the bad guy.
Yeah, and I didn't even say it was BS. All I did was said, here's the video, watch for yourself. So what the fake news is trying to make it sound like real journalism, doing actual reporting. And now we're inciting terrorism. They tried that with the K-File guy, too. You know, he threatens to dox somebody. We report on it. And then they want to say, oh, you guys are really just trying to incite harassment and yada, yada.
Yeah, and I love how they're just going to all get together and throw more money at fighting us. All that does is get us bigger. And I don't say that to make it sound positive. It's true. They don't understand. Everyone hates them. The New World Order media is like a restaurant where everybody gets leprosy, food poisoning, and AIDS. No one's ever going in there. It's not like one or two people got AIDS eating at your restaurant. They're all basically politically dying. You people are the scourge of the earth. You are the hated anathema filth. You are the greatest trash joke nerds. Hollywood's a joke. It's all falling. All they've got's little kids still thinking Hollywood's cool. Cernovich, take over. Thanks for hosting.
Yeah, I mean, well, even the Harvard Business Review has a new article, The Truth About Globalization. I actually had to give money.
It admits it's collapsing. It shows a globe, a beach ball globe that's deflated.
Yeah. So
where did I hear that first?
Yeah. They're freaking out, and they're talking about how media sentiment is soured and everything like that. They're freaking out. Harvard Business Review, Council of Foreign Relations.
Oh, they're now admitting the Democratic Party's over. They're now turning on themselves. I mean, this is delicious.
Yeah, it's an incredible amount of fun for us. I mean, that's what I always tell these people as I go, all you have to do I look tired? No,
get into the fight. Make it exciting. And that's the thing. We're not putting a good face on this. The enemy is melting down worse than we thought. But the empire will strike back.
And we're back. Mike Cernovich, Facebook.com/Mike Cernovich, bringing you Fake News Watch. We've had a lot of fake news come up in the day, and I love it when we get fake news in the mainstream media because it puts them on their back foot. So let's focus on one set of fake news, and I'll kind of tee it up, and then they have a great video. Production team has a great video, and we'll watch that. But as you know, if Alex Jones one day said he had turkey for lunch, and then a reporter goes, well, actually, he had chicken. Fake news, you can't trust anything, right? Let us get one thing wrong ever, and they try for our entire lives to follow that. Well, he said one time in 2011, this one thing, and it was wrong. These people, though, they're getting it wrong every day. So let's use a recent example. As we know, 17 agencies did not say Russia and Trump colluded. We all know this is a fact, okay? But if you go to the ironically titled PolitiFact, they go, well, you know, we said in an article that all 17 intelligence agencies found collusion. Well, now it's only really 4, but it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, it could be 17. We said 17 because we thought that was more damaging. But now that that's wrong, and it's only 4, well, it doesn't really matter because So they are admitting that they do not pay scrupulous attention to the facts. 2 more people in the fake news media spread that same lie, and I can't even keep track. I'm going to have to hire an intern to just monitor the fake news because it's so much every day. Very fake news, Jim Acosta, who is screaming that his pen tweet says we are fake or we are real news. He claimed that 17 intelligence agencies found collusion between Trump and Russia. Well, that's fake. He didn't apologize. He didn't come forward. He didn't say, I got that wrong. Katie Tour of NBC tweeted out 17 agencies. It is 17, Mr. President. It is 17 agencies, Mr. President. It was only 4. She deleted her tweet. She hasn't apologized. She hasn't issued a retraction. NBC hasn't issued a retraction. CNN hasn't issued a retraction. So that PolitiFact, PolitiFact said, well, I mean, we got it wrong. It was only 4, but not 17. But it doesn't matter anyway because something, you know, hope you have a goldfish memory and you just forget about what you said. But So that's the fake news every day. So they have to go back years to find anything that I got wrong. They have to go back years to find anything that Alex Jones got wrong. But then they act like that's all we do, even though we give real news 99.99999% of the time. Occasionally, but then when we apologize, they treat us like we're the bad guys, right? When we actually say, well, you know, that story went off the rails. That's why I don't talk about it anymore. Then they go, oh, see, they admit they spread fake news. We're real news because we're correcting ourselves. So Jim Acosta has not apologized for that fake article. Neither has Katie Tour. PolitiFact hasn't apologized. So speaking of Jim Acosta, we have a great video on him. Let's load that up and watch that.
Again, say you think it was Russia. Your intelligence agencies have been far more definitive. They say it was Russia. Why won't you agree with them and say it was?
Well, I'll tell you, let me just start off by saying, I heard it was 17 agencies. I said, boy, that's a lot. Do we even have that many intelligence agencies, right? Let's check it. And we did some very heavy research. It turned out to be 3 or 4. It wasn't 17. And many of your compatriots had to change their reporting, and they had to apologize, and they had to correct. Now, with that being said, mistakes have been made. I agree. I think it was Russia, but I think it was probably other people and or countries. And I see nothing wrong with that statement.
When he said, well, I keep hearing it's 17 intelligence agencies that say Russia meddled in the election. I think it's only 3 or 4. Where does that number come from? Where is this 3 or 4 number come from? My suspicion, Chris and Poppy, is that if we go to the administration and
Jim
ask
Acosta, whose 10 tweet says, "We are real news, Mr. President," tweeted out, or that's his pen tweet, and he goes, "We got Trump again. We got him again." And this is the great thing. We now have CNN on the run. He's making dumb mistakes. They think, oh, we got Trump again. We got Trump busted this time. They're drunk with power and they're making a lot of mistakes. And that is why we have to keep pushing the advantage. That is why we got to keep going hard every day, because Jim Acosta is going to they want to correct you, right? They're so quick to correct you. And they're so drunk with power, and they're so unaccountable, and they're used to nobody ever calling them out, and for them not fact-checking, that they don't understand what's going on. Speaking of Jim Acosta, there's more about him. More fake news about Jim Acosta. He lied to the public a couple weeks ago. We're going to cover that again right after the break. I'm glad to tell you guys and gals listening at home, the DNA Force is finally back on stock. When I came in to visit, I was trying to get some for myself, because I do use the products that I talk about, otherwise I wouldn't talk about them. And DNA Force, they told me it was out of stock, and I had met with I'm not going to tell you who, but I met with the people who are responsible for distribution, and they said it's so hard to keep it in stock because of the raw ingredients. And when you run out of the raw ingredients and the formulations are kept a certain way, then you run out, and it costs a lot of money to produce. It's a very, very valuable product, very, very healthy for your body, has antioxidants. It makes people feel so much better. So I'm glad that it's back in stock, because I need to get some for myself. And I do believe it's 20% off right now at InfoWarsLife.com, DNA Force. It is 20% off. Okay, I'm seeing it on screen. So yeah, it is 20% off. It's finally back in stock. That one is a great product, especially too, for the people here who, I don't want to call anybody old, but for the people, say on the other side of maybe 40, this is when products like these are especially helpful, very, very powerful stuff. So I'm glad to announce that that's back in stock. And you know what else is back in stock? Jim Acosta. I may call me, I don't know. It's my hobby. I can never get enough beating up Jim Acosta. It never gets old to me. It never stops being fun, making fun of CNN. So Jim Acosta, we saw yesterday, claimed, Trump said that it was only 3 or 4 intelligence agencies who found collusion. It was really 17, and so he lied. But he actually fabricated a source. And this was to make Trump look bad. So I'll take you back to when Congressman Scalise was shot. He was shot. And then very fake news, Jim Acosta tweeted out, Donald Trump did not meet him in the hospital, according to an official source. This is his exact tweet. White House official on Trump visit. President Trump did not meet with Scalise and did not go to the room where he was being treated. What a monster Trump is. What a terrible person. Very fake news, Jim Acosta has a White House official as a source. Well, it was fake. That is a complete and total fabrication. That was a complete and total lie. Trump had visited him. And then here's how very fake news Jim Acosta tried to weasel his way out. He goes, well, I was just quoting the press, right? But that's not, so he first said, White House official says Trump didn't visit Scalise, didn't go into his room. And then people go, actually, that's a lie. You're a fraud, dude. That isn't what happened. Trump did go in there. And then Acosta goes, oh, well, I was only quoting the White House press pool. Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute, Jim. Wait a minute, Jim. You're dealing with the lawyer here. I'm a lawyer and a journalist. You think I'm just going to let you get away with that kind of BS? You think that I can't keep track of what you just said 5 minutes ago, Jim? You're not dealing with the low IQ idiots you deal with on a normal basis at CNN. You're dealing with the lawyer. So, Jim, your tweet said, White House official, quote. So you can't blame it on the press pool. The press pool is not a White House official. So that's what Jim Acosta does. That's how fake he is. He fabricated a source. That is journalistic fraud. That is unethical journalism at the highest. Of course he wasn't fired, right? Of course he wasn't fired from CNN, even though he made up a source. And then he goes, oh, well, got it from the press pool. No, Jim. You made up a source. You are a fraud. You are very fake news. He was never fired. The only reason, a lot of people don't know this, the only reason those 3 journalists at CNN were fired for lying about Scaramucci, or Mooch as his friends call him, is because he was going to sue him for $100 million. He was going to sue CNN into bankruptcy, just like, because Scaramucci has been very successful, private equity, done a lot of real estate deals, has the money to take on CNN. He goes, fine, I'm going to sue you $100 million. Jeff Zucker freaked out. Oh my God, we got to do something. That's the only reason they got fired. They didn't get fired because CNN has ethics or integrity or because they cared. They got fired because they committed fabrication. And let's talk about the 3 journalists who got fired. One of them had won a Pulitzer Prize. One of them had been nominated for a Pulitzer. They'd come from the New York Times, very prestigious people. That's how fake the whole media industrial complex is, or the media pharma complex, as I call it. I've said that if you work for CNN or the New York Times or Washington Post, here's your legacy. You bully people who don't have the means to take you on, and you shill products for big pharma. That's your legacy. You watched All the President's Men. You thought you're going to be Woodward and Bernstein. Nope. You are a shill for big pharma. That's your only reason you exist. Your only legacy will be bullying people and selling drugs to big pharma. So think about that. I mean, if Scaramucci had not had the money it took to sue CNN, if he were just a regular person, they'd destroy his life. Just like CNN tried to destroy the life of that Reddit user, where some people said the guy was 15, other people he said he's middle-aged. It doesn't really matter. The guy's a private citizen. CNN sent 4 private investigators to scour his Reddit, Facebook, to call his family, harass his friends. That's what they would do to you. They would crush everybody listening here. If they knew your name, if you're listening right now, or if you're watching on Periscope or YouTube or Facebook or at Infowars.com, if they got a hold of your name, they would destroy your life. CNN. But CNN is the bullying victim. They are valued at $20 billion. There's a merger, a proposed merger right now, as if concentration of media ownership isn't a big enough problem, right? As if it's already not a big enough problem that 6 corporations control 90% of media. AT&T and Time Warner are going to merge. CNN and that merger is being valued at $20 million. This year's profits alone at CNN estimated to be $1 billion. You sure make a lot more money selling drugs people don't need to cure diseases that polluted water cause than you do being honest and truthful. That's why I love when they did a hate article on Alex recently. They go, oh, he sells supplements, even though you can buy the same supplements at Sprouts and Trader Joe's and Whole Foods and everything, and water filters you can buy everywhere on Amazon. But somehow it's bad for Alex Jones to sell great products like DNA Force that help people feel better, that help detoxify the body from this very polluted world. Somehow it's a problem to have InfoWarsLife.com and sell people products. That's bad. That you're shilling. How dare you sell supplements to people? How dare you? But hey, why don't you take this big drug? And why don't you take that drug? And why don't you take this other drug that will never cure you because Big Pharma doesn't want to cure diseases? They instead want to treat, and of course a lot of it, statins have been shown to actually cause heart attacks. So a lot of these drugs, and where's the retraction? Where's the investigative journalism into statins, S-T-A-T-I-N-S? It has now been proven that not only are statins not effective for the vast majority of people, most of the studies were fabricated or used out of context, but for many people, it can cause heart attacks. Wouldn't a real journalist do an expose on that? Where's the CNN feature story? Statins, are they really giving you a heart attack? Where's that big special on CNN? Statins, they could kill you, man. Well, they're never gonna do that. That's how fake these people are. They try to act like they are betters, that they are superiors intellectually, morally, when all they do is shill drugs that are bad for people? Are they going to apologize for that fake news now? For all those advertisements that they shared and all those checks they cashed, where they shilled for statins, which we now know are harmful for the vast majority of people. Are they going to issue a retraction? Are they going to give that money back? Are they going to say, well, we took all those billions of dollars in advertising, we're feeling kind of bad, you know, maybe we shouldn't have done it. So why do people treat CNN like anything other than what it is? A multinational, $20 billion corporate conglomerate. That's all it is. If you work for CNN or the Washington Post or the New York Times, which is owned by Carlos Slim, Washington Post owned by Jeff Bezos, which, you know, I shop a lot at Amazon, so I'm always conflicted, but I love Amazon. So, you know, Bezos, he gets a lot of money from me in Amazon, but I don't subscribe to the Washington Post. The point is, though, the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos, who's a billionaire. The New York Times is owned by Carlos Slim. Oh, not really owned. PolitiFact. Let's apply the PolitiFact logic to my statement. I'll often say the New York Times is owned by Carlos Slim, and people go, how dare you say he owns it? He's only the largest shareholder who owns 18% or 1/5 of the company. How dare you call him the owner, though, right? That is how this fake news machinery works. They will nitpick everything we say and not give us any margin for hyperbole, any margin for kind of like getting the gist of it right. They won't go, well, you know, they'll go PolitiFact, fact check. Mike Cernovich claimed on InfoWars that Carlos Slim's owned the New York Times. False. 4 Pinocchios. Liar, liar, pants on fire. He's not the owner. And then they'll bury it in their little analysis. Well, he's the largest shareholder at 17.5% or 18% or whatever, 1/5 of the company. So that'll be buried. The headline, though, will say Cernovich lied. But then when PolitiFact themselves go, well, 17 intelligence agencies said that Trump and Russia colluded, and it was really only 4, they're going to go, well, I mean, the gist of it was right. The gist of that, I mean, it you know, it wasn't 17. We said it was 17. It wasn't. And we're here to tell you that facts matter, and we're tired of the alternative facts coming from the pro-Trump media universe. Facts matter. Well, if facts matter, and you claim 17 intelligence organizations found collusion, and it was only 4, then you have spread an alternative fact. You have spread a false fact. Own it. But then they go, well, no, it was 4. We said 17, but the gist of it is true. The gist is that, you know, da-da-da-da-da. That's why they're losing, too. I mean, let's look at the ratings right now, you know, because this is why I'm optimistic. Look at me. Do I look tired? I worked every day. I work every day. Do you see me looking? I took my daughter for a 4-mile hike. She's like 20 pounds. First thing in the morning, you know, 6:30 in the morning, I'm hiking her, you know. Oh, it was really only 7:15 in the morning. You know, that's what the fake news media would do. They're like, well, Cernovich claims, you know, he hiked his daughter at 6:30, but according to the Instagram timestamp, it was actually 7:18 p.m. and he said 4 miles, but it was actually 3.973. So, you know, fake news, 4 Pinocchios, liar, liar, pants on fire, but really got him. Oh, but if we said 17 agencies, you know, determined collusion, but it was only 4. Hey, man, chill out, bro. Give us the benefit of the doubt. No, you got to apply the same standard to everybody. The reason I feel so good, though, just like, because I don't take drugs. Megyn Kelly tried to accuse Alex Jones of taking drugs. That's how, because they have no soul. If you're Megyn Kelly, you don't, because I've been to the InfoWars people. Everybody enjoys their jobs. Don't get me wrong, a job's a job, even if you have a dream job at InfoWars. And my job is a dream job. I mean, you're still tired. You still have to deal with BS. It's not like there's no Shangri-La on this world or the next, right? But the energy at InfoWars is contagious, it's palpable. People enjoy what they're doing. They go, everybody must be on drugs. Because Megyn Kelly, her heart isn't into what she's doing. She knows every day that she wakes up and shaves her face and puts on the eyeliner. She knows that she's a liar and that she's going to have to, and that doesn't feel good unless you're a true sociopath. Which I don't think Megan's a true sociopath. I mean, she's like borderline. She's got to look, and as she's shaving, you know, her face every day in the morning, she's thinking to herself, you know, I got to look these people in the eye and lie to them. I got to lie to these people today. I got to just make things up. I have to shill for warmongers. I have to shill for warmongers. I have to shill for globalists. I have to shill for people who want to murder children and for child traffickers. She's got to shill for pedophiles. That's her. So, of course, she has no energy. She probably has to take a beta blocker and all kinds of drugs, because how do you look people in the eye knowing that you're defending pedophiles, you're defending warmongers, you're defending child sex traffickers, you're defending the Saudis, you're defending people like John Podesta? That's your job? We must all be on drugs because we feel so good all the time, but I'll tell you why we feel good and why everybody listening should be optimistic about the future and why we are grateful for you. All rolled into one, side by side. Paul Joseph Watson video versus CNN ratings. The highest rated person on CNN is Anderson Cooper. Anderson Cooper does around 900,000 for his best show, right? Best show, and that is not real ratings because they play in the airport. If you got CNN kicked out of the airports and kicked out of our public schools, they would have maybe 100,000 viewers. So once you factor in Paul's Facebook and factor in Paul's YouTube, 3 million views a day. These are just brand new videos for Paul. 713,000, 400,000, 451,000, 700,000, 600,000. And these aren't his Twitter views. Paul's Twitter is doing like 250 million views a month, right? So his videos are doing millions of views on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, consistently. I had a video going after CNN, a meme compilation. It's already reached 10 million people. We have the screen cap from the Facebook because the fake news media is going to be like, well, BS, baloney, liars. 10 million viewers. I'll see if I can pull up the screen cap here on my phone or whatever and show you guys. So my facebook.com/Mike Cernovich, we post a lot of videos there and great memes and other kind of stuff. So I'll show you. It has done 4.2 million views already, and it's reached over 10 million people. I mean, they can call me, they can throw a fit all they want. You can look at the analytics. So one video alone, 4.2 million views. It's reached 10,041,000 people. My videos for 1 week alone, facebook.com/Mike Cernovich, 10,247,000. Over 10 million views from Facebook. 16,698,000 people reached on my Facebook, right? That is why they're freaking out. They don't do ratings like that at CNN. And Paul's Facebook probably way bigger than mine. I don't have his analytics. But, I mean, Paul's owns the video space, right? So Paul Joseph Watson, Paul the Great, his Facebook is killing it. His Twitter is killing it. His YouTube is killing it. That is why I'm optimistic, and that I just want to thank everybody here. A lot of you can support the show, InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com, buying the products, the toothpaste, the sunscreen for the summer, the DNA Force is great for you. But not everybody wants the products or can use the products or times are tight. Hey, you can share the links. If all everybody did was share the links, the InfoWars would be 10 times bigger than it was. Everybody would get 10 times bigger. So you can always join the InfoWar. You can get the great products, use the great products, or you can just share the links every day of your life and increase the level of consciousness of the world. Final segment, we're going to talk about we win, but the fight is on every day. Very disturbing news coming out of the State Department. A key official in the State Department, and we've talked about this before, by the way. I broke a story with Alex, I believe, a week ago. We talked about Rex Tillerson, Margaret Petterlin, and Brian Hook, and how they're trying to take the State Department and completely frustrate the American First policy goals. They want to turn it into another, deep state operation. So there's now a McCain shill, very, very high-level position given to the State Department. That story just broke earlier today. Reason.com has the article, and they're pulling it up right now. So this guy is, John McCain is, as you know, one of the worst people in the Senate, maybe the worst in terms of pure evil of senators of all time. Probably the most evil senator of all time, and Hillary Clinton. John McCain would be number 2. I mean, he might be number 1. There are pictures of him with ISIS and all kinds of terrorist founders. He bomb Iran. He was trying to sing a song about, bombing people and murdering civilians and things like that. There's footage of that everywhere you want to go. He's just a ball of rage, and he's actually gone senile now. I've heard from exclusive reports that he's no longer himself, so to speak. And of course, we saw that clip of him during I believe it was the Comey hearing. One of the hearings, he showed the dementia setting in, where he couldn't form a coherent sentence, couldn't form a coherent thought. He blamed it on staying up late watching the Arizona Diamondbacks. So yeah, John McCain can report is having severe health problems, early onset Alzheimer's is what I've heard. So I'm trying to get a hold of medical records, of course. But just like we had Hillary with Parkinson's, the fake news media will say, "Oh, how dare you say that?" No, he has dementia for sure. So we are calling on John McCain to release his health records. The media made him release it during the presidential campaign, because remember, health records were not off. Here we go. Concerns about John McCain's health after Comey hearing. He's utterly incoherent. He does have Alzheimer's disease. And as we know, when he ran for president against Obama, hey, man, health was on limits. Everybody in the media demanded to see his medical records. But then when we asked for Hillary Clinton's records, no, what are you doing? You can't ask for health records. How dare you? So that's what the fake news media is going to say now. They're going to say, oh, Cernovich claimed that John McCain has Alzheimer's. Well, you can't say that. You can't show the health records. The same people who 8 years ago were demanding to see McCain's records are now going to say we can't look at them anymore. Isn't that interesting how that works? How they change the rules to fit whatever they want to do. They have no integrity. That is why people don't trust the fake news media. That is why people don't trust CNN, New York Times, WAPO. And that is why, the Harvard Business Review has to do a whole special. They're freaking out. I feel bad. I gave $20 to the globalist war machine. I'm going to have to how Al Gore offsets his purchases with like carbon credits, even though that's a scam. Don't get me down that rabbit hole right now. But this was $18.95. So whenever I give $18.95 to a globalist organization, then I go to InfoWarsStore.com and I have to buy a product or something to offset. It's like the right-wing offset, right? We need to offset all of our bad purchases with good ones. So yeah, McCain's having problems. The globalists are freaking out. There's going to be a big CFR-sponsored hit piece on me. There's actually somebody who monitors every transmission on InfoWars who works with an intelligence agency. I'm not going to tell you which one because I'm not going to out my source. We are being monitored. We are being watched. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to Facebook.com/Mike Cernovich. Facebook.com/Mike Cernovich. Find us there. I'm going to be here every Friday. I'm going to be here every day soon. Thanks, everybody.